I'm a nobody, baby. Light me up, pour me up, I'm gone. Got me seeing genies in a bottle. Liquor got me feeling like a wrestler, call me Santiago. Everyone listen when I speak. Don't know shit about shit, but I know ball.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Two Nobody's podcast. Running a little skeleton crew today. We got me and Rafa the Guru in here today.
What's going on, man? Eddie,
Eddie,
Bunny.
myself, Eddie, and then we got Eddie. Eddie's catching flights around the world. He's, I think he's golfing in South Carolina today.
Eddie's golfing in South Carolina, so he's left us with all the task of the Two Nobodies podcast. We're gonna have Ryan Holmes in a little bit, as well, talking some shit in here.
Our extra nobody. Will be coming out later.
our extra nobody for sure.
But
although Ryan is a nobody, by the way.
Yeah, honorary, very honorary. We got episode 136. Welcome back, everybody. We're going to be talking some basketball, talking some generational stuff, and then getting into some college football. We'll be heating up a little later. But, you know, our saying, don't be a loser. You know, don't lose your kids' lunch money. Don't lose their school money. Don't lose the trust fund. Don't lose the 401k, baby.
Gamble responsibly.
Yep. But getting into that, you know, we got our first topic of the day. We got You're Fired. And I'm going to keep it on a positive note today. I'm going to hire a team, actually. My alma mater, St. John Bosco, they beat Corona Centennial yesterday in the D1 semifinals for baseball, going on to play Santa Margarita tomorrow at Cal State Fullerton for the D1 final. I want to give a big shout out to them. Pitcher did absolutely amazing, went 6 1/3 innings, and he went with 9 strikeouts against 3 projected first rounders in the MLB draft this year. So big shout out to that guy. That's huge.
Yeah, dude, I think Eddie made a mistake. Because the other day he said in our group chat they were supposed to finish last. Impossible. Impossible. I still can't believe it. I bring it up all the time in the group chat because to me it's unbelievable. You have 3 potential first round guys. Come on. And they ended up being Division I. So
I think they were projected to be last because last year they won the D3 final and they got straight boosted to D1. So everyone was like, that my assuming that they probably think that was a big jump for them. But you know, this coach we got,
that's only in the playoffs though. So
yeah.
And actually, I heard that, and because you know, football every year is different, right? I mean, for the most part, Bosco Mater Dei, they're always Division I, but when it gets after the season, they kind of break them down into division. You kind of don't know because last year Hart won, I think, Division II, and then this year they were Division III. And then I was asking somebody about it, and they were like, "Oh, I think they changed it now, and it's like football." So I think Bosco was just so good throughout the regular season that when the playoffs started, they put them in Division I because Mater Dei is Division II, and they're in the Division II championship against actually West Ranch, which is not far from where I'm at.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're like 5 miles away. So, but good for Bosco. Good for them.
Our baseball team is finally catching up to where other programs were at. Great to see.
Yeah, they might have back-to-back championships here.
That'd be great. That'd be fucking amazing.
That'd be awesome for them. So congratulations to them. I'm going to hire and fire somebody. So I'm going to hire Charlie Woods, the son of Tiger Woods, for winning the TaylorMade Invitational against a couple of kids who were highly ranked in the country, if not 1 and 3 or 1 and 2 in their, amateur status. And dude, think about it. You're Tiger Woods' son. It's like being Michael Jordan's son, LeBron James' son. It's that type of pressure. And he got the job done. Amateur and all, but he got the job done. And he had a great day today. And he won it with a 6 under. So great performance by Charlie Woods. Congratulations to him. Hopefully he nobody's going to live up to Tiger status. That's what I think. I think Tiger will be the greatest golfer ever. People will argue that, Jack and this and that or whatever. To me, it's Tiger, and it'll always be Tiger. So big shoes to fill. I don't think Charlie needs to fill them. You know, but and Tiger will tell you probably himself that there's no pressure on the kid, obviously, but it's there because you know your dad is the greatest golfer probably of all time.
Yeah.
So obviously the pressure is there. But for the most part, we never see the kids live up to the hype. Bronny, Michael Jordan's kids are just awful. Let's not talk about Magic Johnson's son. That's just you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? And that's not even a thing. You know, it's so always very tough to live up to Pops when he's an icon. But Charlie Woods, congratulations, man. Great job. And then I want to fire Stephon Diggs, already causing problems for the New England Patriots. If you didn't see the video, he's hanging out with Cardi B. Now he's got, he's hanging out with 3 other chicks on a yacht. Cardi B might have been there. They say she wasn't. Eddie Money is now telling me there was a bag of coke involved. I mean,
it's a bag of everything, baby.
Do the Patriots cut him already?
No, nah. They just
you don't
cut
think
him.
So?
No. Vrabel. I think that's him missing first day of OTAs too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. Dude, imagine.
That's worse than the OBJ Miami trip.
Dude,
of going to get in a boat and then just getting flat out ran through in the playoffs.
Dude, unbelievable. And so, but if there's drugs involved, Eddie Money, that could lead to a suspension.
Yeah.
Which could, maybe if the league investigates it, maybe the Patriots have some sort of, maybe they can cut them without any repercussions, without anything from the NFL Players Association. I don't know. Ryan would know more about that. He's an actual journalist. He's an actual journalist, and we're a couple dudes just sitting here. Yeah, we're just here talking shit about players. But so that's a big distraction for me. And I told you 2 years ago, this dude's a fucking problem. He was a problem for Josh Allen. He got hurt, not luckily that he was hurt, but for CJ Stroud, I mean, thank goodness he wouldn't be in a pain in the ass for the most part. And now he comes on he hasn't even stepped foot on the field yet.
Nope.
On the practice fucking field, let alone. And he's already a distraction. He's already an issue. What do the Patriots fans think about it? We'll see. But that's a major problem.
Definitely a different type of vibe in New England than what's usually there. For
sure. Rick Flores is in the chat. Magic Son trying to live up to Magic Life. Hint, hint. Hey,
but different way.
You don't gotta tell me. I know a guy who worked for the Lakers at that time. I've heard stories that I cannot repeat because I don't want to put the guy who told me the stories on blast, who worked for Dr. Bust at that time. But yeah, no, I get your drift, Rick. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I know it. He's definitely yes, and yes, for sure. Thank you, Rick, for pointing that out. Much appreciated. So,
people on Twitter were talking about the Stephon Diggs thing, and they were like, it all goes back to that. There's a video back when he's on the Vikings, and they're doing like a locker room interview with the players, and they're asking, who on the team would you least want to date your daughter? And the whole locker room said Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, you're right. And those guys see some shit, and you travel with them and all sorts of shit, and they see things. So he's a nasty motherfucker, is what it is. And Cardi B learned the hard way. God, what have they been dating for? Well, they've been hanging for a couple weeks only, right?
Yeah, they were on the boat the same. So one of the captions that I saw was like, man, when your girl love hoes just as much as you, it's a great time.
Yeah, so maybe it was Cardi B approved. Maybe it was Cardi
Probably,
B approved. Yeah. Who knows? We'll see. But I tell you, Mike Vrabel isn't happy. He addressed the team today.
This is exactly the way Eddie wants his wide receiver one. So
yeah.
Eddie wants his wide receiver one as a diva. This is top tier wide receiver one status.
Dude, this is too much, man. This is too much. Like, there's receivers that are distractions. Antonio Brown, Terrell Owens. But for the most part, like Antonio Brown, when he was elite, in Pittsburgh, he was that distraction. Right? And he became a distraction as he got to the Raiders, and then we saw Tampa and so on. But this dude, he's been a distraction in Minnesota, in Buffalo, and now hasn't even stepped foot on the practice field, and he's already a problem for the Patriots. So, and T.O. was a problem, but T.O. was an elite talent who still performed while being a problem. And T.O., to me, I think T.O. was more entertainment than problem.
Yeah.
You know, he's signing the ball after a touchdown. He's fucking stomping on
Chugging
the
out
star.
popcorn.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
stomping on the star. He's taking popcorn. He's tossing popcorn. I mean, that was a little bit different than some of these other guys.
That was more so like he's getting people to watch.
Yeah. I felt T.O. was more entertainment purposes
Yeah.
than. But
They
Rick,
just
I don't know
living
if
life.
I don't know if Rick wants to fire anybody. Are we live on Instagram too or no?
Yeah.
So we are live on Instagram as well. And let me just say, let's repeat. Eddie's not here. He's out in South Carolina, golfing his ass off. Hopefully he plays well. He just sent a video. He missed a birdie putt, as we all do on a weekly basis. So it is no shock. So, but it is great that he was putting for bird. So that's the update. That was Eddie on 17. So he should be wrapping up his first round of his trip, and I'm sure he's having a great time. So, but anyways, NBA playoffs. We're in the conference finals, and 2-3-1 leads. Are you shocked? Are you shocked by any of these 3-1 leads?
I'm shocked by the East. I did not think that was going to be 3-1. I think it'd be a 2-2.
Dude, I thought it'd be 3-1 the other way. I thought
really?
I thought it'd be 3-1 the other way. I thought before the series started, right? Obviously, because game one, the Knicks blow a 9-point lead with under a minute left, a 14-point lead with a minute and a half or whatever. And Indiana, we've seen for the last 2 years, super dangerous team behind the arc. Super dangerous team. They play with a pace. And this is what I like about Indiana when you're watching them play right now. I always felt, and everyone for years, they've always said, oh, the game slows down in the playoffs. It slows down because you want it to slow down, which always upset me about the Phoenix Suns, because the Phoenix Suns with Nash and Amare and Shawn Marion and all those guys that they had, they'd run up and down the court for 82 fucking games.
Yep.
60 plus wins. You had a two-time MVP in Steve Nash. And they just moved up and down the court. And then when the playoffs started, they slowed it down themselves. When you watched Indiana last night, it didn't matter. Miss or make, we're flying down the court. And that's what they've been doing. And I think that's what's made it a little bit different than what we've seen in years past, where teams tend to slow it down. Oh, we got to play half-court basketball. I think you should always play what got you there. I think you should never change. And these teams change because it's the playoffs. Why the fuck are we changing? Let them slow it down. Let them play half-court basketball. You know what? If we need to play half-court basketball, we're playing half-court basketball the last minute of the game. Other than that, we should play our pace. And the Pacers are showing you that their pace is working, obviously. And they look great doing it. I mean, Tyrese Halliburton, a 30-point triple-double last night with zero turnovers. Zero turnovers, by the way.
Having being the main ball carrier in such an important game in the playoffs and having zero turnovers while putting up a triple-double is nuts.
It's insane. It's insane. And he's done a great job. And for people who say he's underrated or overrated, that's a stupid statement. That's a stupid statement. And the Pacers gave up Sabonis in that trade to get him.
Yeah.
And so they knew what they were getting, and they've gotten potentially a superstar in the making if he's not already one. If he's not already one. If he's not already one. So, I mean, and then the other series, OKC against Minnesota. That one, I mean, Minnesota after game 3, you had to think, wow, they won by 40, right? They dominated that game. And then, what goes wrong in game 4? It just felt like it was one of those games like game 3 we've seen in a lot of series and for many years, where it's like, they've gotten their ass kicked so bad in the first 2 games. They might get game 3, but this is going to be a gentleman's sweep before 1. And that's kind of what OKC series is playing out to be. And I think that game's tonight, right? That's game 5 tonight.
Yeah.
Minnesota and OKC. I think OKC probably wins that game easy. And we can call it a wrap, which is shocking. I mean, if we look at the 4 teams left, it's like
It's like, does anybody? The only team like out of the 4 teams that I
Where's the
really
star
want to
power?
see win, that too. The only team that I really want to see win is New York. I feel like that fan base just like deserves it.
Shit, Eddie Money. I think I lost you on my headset. I'm gonna need to charge this shit. I think I might need to put you on my computer. Give me a second. God,
All right, technically, guys,
I
give us
knew
a
I was
second.
having a headset issue, man. Give me a second. Let me see if I can put this thing on the computer. Say something, Eddie Money.
Yep.
Yeah, I can hear you on my computer.
All right, that's good.
That
Okay.
might echo,
I can't
but-
hear you through that anyway.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I can't
Okay.
hear the echo, which is good.
Oh, okay, perfect. All right. So we'll get the headphones charging. I screwed up last week and didn't put them in, whatever. But like we were saying, the 4 teams left, it feels like it's just there's no real star power with the exception of SGA. Ant, I know, is a star, but when we look at the 3 or 4 best players in the league, because even Tatum is considered one of the 4 best players in the league. He won the championship last year.
Yeah.
But when we look at the 4 best players, you say Luka, the Joker, Steph, and you know, Tatum, Giannis. I don't think it's Ant. I don't know if it's SGA. Right? It's definitely not Brunson. They're all top 10 players, but they're not what we've been accustomed to seeing for how many years in the NBA?
Yeah, those aren't like pedestal guys.
Right. That's what I think. And so for me, I don't think the word generational gets thrown around. Like some clip popped up the other day on Instagram where they mentioned that Ant was a generational talent. Do you think Ant's a generational talent?
I think Ant's a great talent, and that goes into the question I was talking about. Before we get into that, we'll bring in Ryan. How we doing, Ryan?
What's happening?
What's up, buddy? How you
Hold on
doing?
one second. I'm trying to adjust my headphones for 1 second. I can't hear you yet.
You good? You good? No, but yeah, that would lead into the first question that we were talking about. Is about where do you draw the line at generational and great talent, especially in today, where there's a lot of great talent, but not that many generational talents like we used to see maybe like 10, 15 years ago in the NBA.
I don't even know if we were seeing generational talent. And I'd like to get Ryan's take on this because I have a list of generational guys. And
In today's league or just in general?
no, in general, there's like, from my list, I'll be honest with you, there's 2 that are actively still elite players. This is just my take. And my generational talent list is probably different. And that's why I love to have Ryan on here because he's going to fucking smack me down.
He's going to see like, actually.
And let me know. But to me, if I'm looking at the players today, there's maybe 2 or 3 that I believe are generational. And then 1 that isn't playing much anymore. At least he's not playing at an elite level. But I thought for a certain amount of time, he could be considered generational. But
so, right, what we're going over right now is what we think, where people draw the line at generational and great, because a lot of people are saying that Anthony Edwards is generational.
Not yet. I wouldn't say he's generational yet.
I think when
He
I
can
look
be.
at Anthony Edwards, if people are saying he's generational, then Jason Tatum is generational because they're almost similar players.
Yes, but you got to remember Tatum has a title right now. Anthony
Right, but
Edwards
you
doesn't.
consider
So I think that's the criteria, right? Like there was a conversation today on First Take where they were talking about is Halliburton a superstar? And Stephen A's like, not yet. He's not a superstar yet. He's on the verge of that because he's having the stardom now. But like Jay Will was like, I consider him a superstar in today's league, whatever. And it's like, the reason you consider him a superstar right now is because he's a headliner of the playoffs now because they've made it as far as they have. So in that regard, he has to be a superstar because he's carrying the mantle of the NBA playoffs with one of the last 4 teams. I don't think that Anthony Edwards is generational yet. So kind of in that same vein, right? I don't think he's there yet, but I think he certainly can be, because if you look at And right when I think generational, I obviously think Michael Jordan. I think LeBron. I think for me, I also think Steph Curry, because
Yeah.
these people have changed the game and they've done it on a level that doesn't stay within those four lines. Right? Like Anthony Edwards, their Adidas is trying to do that. The NBA wants to do that, but he is fighting it with like every fiber of his being to be that role model type of guy that is like generational and changes things the way that he can change things. So for me, I don't think he's there yet, but I think he can be. And my thought is maybe you're thinking of like a Kawhi Leonard as generational, maybe Rafa. If going off of what you said about a guy that isn't playing elite level anymore, that was
when
my
you,
thought.
when you described that. That was my thought as well.
That's not even who it is, which is even more wild. Because when I think generational, I think of a player that has done something that hasn't been done in a while, or does things different. That is at an elite level, right? So when I think generational, I think Will Chamberlain, Larry Bird, Magic, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Tim Duncan, Shaq, LeBron, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant. Because when you look at Kevin Durant, who did what Kevin Durant did at that level? Because Dirk did it, but not at the level that Durant does it. Durant can score. He was a 50-40, 90 guy, right? 90% from the free throw line, 40% from three, 50% from the field, right? Like Steph Curry did the same thing. We know Steph Curry is generational. There's no argument there ever, period.
Can't be.
When I look at the Joker, who has ever done what the Joker does at his size, with his skill level? I can't go back and find someone that does what Joker does. So to me, he's generational. Giannis, very close to Shaq, size, and not with that dominance, but the length, the athleticism, the ability to get to the basket, all of that, that could be generational. The one player that I think is generational, and everyone will hate me for it, for sure, but for 4 years, when you average a triple-double for 4 years, when you're top 12 in MVP voting for 8 seasons, to me, and people are going to say this is crazy, but to me, Russell Westbrook was generational talent.
That was my second guy behind Kawhi Leonard that I was going to say, because I can see it because of the things that you named. A guy that I would put on that list that does not have a title, and you name guys that are no longer in the league outside of the LeBrons and Steph Currys, is Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson might be top 5 generational all time, to be completely honest, because he transcended the sport. And I guess for me, when I look at generational guys, I don't just look at what they did talent wise on the court. I look at how they changed the generation of basketball players and athletes in general. And his style, I mean, think about it. The thing I always go back to is, I don't know if you guys remember it, but there was, Sixers fans, obviously me growing up in Pennsylvania, Sixers fans were everywhere. And that was a time where you were proud to be a Sixers fan. I mean, between Allen Iverson, Eric Snow, like those guys, Aaron McKee, like you wanted those cutoff jerseys. That's when everybody was wearing jerseys around. And the Allen Iverson jersey, he made wearing Reeboks cool.
Hey, I wore Reeboks first day in 9th grade. I wore Iversons first day in 9th
exactly.
grade.
He made Reeboks a dope ass shoe. So for me, AI will always be a generational talent, even though he doesn't have a title, right? Like everybody knows the Ty Lue step over. I remember that little white kid that showed up to the game that had cornrows and had a tattoo sleeve and an Allen Iverson jersey. Like he made everybody just want to be that type of guy, right?
You're right. I didn't even think of Iverson. You're right. He did that killer crossover. That's what they called it. For sure.
Killer cross, and he hit Jordan with it too, right? So like he was just that dude, right? So for me, that I go to Allen Iverson before I even go to Kobe Bryant. Like for me, and like I said, I grew up in Pennsylvania, so Iverson shit was everywhere. But like I can see Russell Westbrook being a generational type of guy because of his style of play. and what he brought to the game was an attitude that I think lacked at the time that he was doing it, right? Like we look at the game now, and part of the reason why I'm like, man, and I'm not even going into the GOAT conversation, obviously, but part of the reason why I say LeBron can't be my GOAT was because he's friends with everybody. Everybody loves him. Everybody wants to be his friend. Like
it's a different time.
It's a different time, but like that's why the ratings aren't what they were. That's why people don't want to watch basketball as much. That's why people don't want to watch the All-Star game, because there's like nothing on the line when they used to play, because they wanted to bust your head. And I feel like Westbrook brought that back, where he wanted to bust a dude's head every time he was out. And everybody talks about him stat padding and averaging a triple-double, whatever. He was that dude on his team. They needed him for the attitude factor. He put the team on his back. So I'm not going to review it because I can understand it, but it's tough for me to put him like very high up on the list for this group of basketball players. He is part of the group of transcendent basketball players, generational basketball players for this time. But like all time, it's tough for me to put him in there.
I don't want to say, because I don't think he's a better all-time player than there's a lot of guys that he's not better than an all-time player of. But when you do something that we haven't seen in a long time, Oscar Robertson averaged a triple-double once, right? And it was like, wow, right? And so, or maybe twice. But Russell Westbrook did it 4 times in 5 seasons, right? And when people say stat padding, like go and actually watch some of those games. There was a game against San Antonio where he might have had 3 offensive rebounds in the last like 17 seconds of the game to get his teammates a shot to try and win that game. So he's
a hustle player.
He's a hustle player. To me, there's nobody, like you said, there's nobody with that attitude, that power to the basket with ferociousness other than Russell Westbrook that we've seen in the last 20 years. Yeah. And Ja has it a little bit.
Ja had it. He doesn't do it anymore.
He got hurt, but Ja had it 2 years ago. You can see it in Ja. Ja was like, when I saw Ja a couple years ago, I'm like, this is Russell Westbrook with a better shot, maybe a little bit smarter player on offense, but he had that ferociousness to the basket. That's why I bring Russell Westbrook into it, because of that stretch that he had in Oklahoma, where it was just a phenomenal stretch that should not just be thrown away, because he was awful when he went to the Lakers. He was awful on the Clippers. Like he was, it's just
because he had to facilitate. That was the difference. He didn't need to be that guy anymore.
Right.
Like, and that's why when he was the guy, when he had to facilitate, when he had to get the rebounds, when he had to truly step up in all facets of the game, he played the same way that Anthony Edwards attempts to play, like the I'm him kind of a guy, right? Like if anyone watched that Netflix special where he's talking to Obama and he's like, "What you mean? I'm him." Yeah. Like he truly thinks that he's that dude, but he's not that dude every night. Westbrook used to have to be that dude all the time. He could not shut it off.
Game.
And he didn't have a roster. Like there wasn't, first season, the year he wins the MVP. Dude, it was like Steven Adams and Andre Robertson and Victor Oladipo, and it was like nothing. Durant had just left him.
There's a reason why he was averaging the triple-double all those seasons.
Yeah, no, he had to. And the next year they get Melo, but still, it's a Melo that's, he was fading already.
Yeah.
So for me, Russ is in there. You can also say maybe Wemby's going to be that guy. Generational talent, can play defense around the rim. He plays very good defense. He can shoot the ball from the outside. Wemby's going to, probably be one of those guys. For me, they don't have to win a title to be generational, I think. I think if you change the game, if you do things that other guys aren't doing consistently season in and season out. I'm not talking about for a night. I'm not talking about for a week, because Jeremy Lin was generational for 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm talking about seasons. And Russell Westbrook did it for 4 or 5 seasons. We've seen the Joker now for how long? We saw Giannis do it. Luka, they say he could be. Luka doesn't play enough defense. And Luka looks a lot like the other players that we see in the league for the most part. So, but
that's what
I
I would put
Go ahead.
Russ up there purely based off the fact, like Ryan, what you were saying, it transcends outside of basketball. When Russell Westbrook had that mohawk cut during like that MVP run, like I wanted that haircut, and I don't even have that hair texture.
I feel people started dressing freaky because Russ did it. Right? No, right? What do you think?
That's the thing, right? Like these players, and it's funny, right? Because like Shaq was talking about the other day, maybe a week or so ago, a lot of players, both NBA, NFL, they're worried about the next thing and not focused on what they're doing right now, right? So when you talk about the fashion and everything else, it's now a fashion statement to roll up to the garden or roll up to the tunnel and have something on, right? Pull up in a dope car, right? Like they are now thinking like everything is their image and their persona, where Michael Jordan used to show up in baggy suits or he'd show up in his warm-ups from the shoot around, which was the style, but that was also because the NBA, everybody was wearing suits though. That was the thing. Everyone had to wear a suit because it was what it needed to be for the NBA. Now, you're right. You see all these guys trying to do something different. And I think for me, like I said, I think Russell Westbrook is a transcendent basketball player, generational basketball player. But I think it only stays there. I do think that he had a little bit of fashion influence, but not like Kobe, not like LeBron, certainly not like Jordan or Allen Iverson, right? Like we talked about, like I said, I'm a sneaker guy. So when you look at it, Kobe's they're flying off the shelves all the time.
Oh no,
right?
no, there's no doubt about. There's no doubt.
So that's what I'm saying. Like those players, it wasn't just what they were doing on the sports, so on the court. So that's why when you look at the game today, that's why the NBA is struggling to name a next face of the NBA. They're struggling hard, and the NBA is leaning. I mean, if you watch First Take, they're leaning hard on ESPN to name the next guy. The guy that can take up the mantle and be the face. They are. They want Anthony Edwards to be the guy. They truly do. He don't want to be the guy. He does not want to be that guy.
Well,
but ESPN is leaning hard on him to do that.
I think he wants to be the guy.
But he can't.
I think he wants to be the guy, but he's yet to prove to be the guy at this age, right? At this age. So if we look at where Jordan was at this age, well, it was still Magic and Bird, right? Yeah. And when Jordan was 22, 23, at this age, LeBron had already been to a finals. At this age, Kobe had Shaq. So it really wasn't, that time for Kobe yet, because Shaq was still the guy, right? At this age. But he's got to take it. And I don't know if he hasn't done anything to take it yet. I mean, yes, Western Conference Finals, back-to-back seasons, right? But he has yet to take that next step. I think if he gets to an NBA Finals, and maybe wins it like Tatum won it last year, although he wasn't the MVP of the finals, which therefore they couldn't really give him the face of the league because he didn't, and then you go to the Olympics and you don't even fucking play. So they're trying to push it for Ant to be the next guy, and he can be, but he's got to get to at least an NBA Finals to be the guy.
There were two guys that the NBA wanted to be the next face. And neither one of them is panning out because one likes to eat too much and he's not disciplined, and that's Zion. And they wanted him to be the guy. They wanted him to be the guy so badly. Like, look how powerful he is. He's blowing through his Nikes. They got to make him special just so he doesn't run out of his shoes. And then the other guy's John Morant. They wanted John Morant to really be that dude because he had that same type of Russell Westbrook chip on his shoulder, but he was doing the dynamic stuff like Jordan. He was jumping out of the gym. He was able to be that guy. And then he got hurt, and two, just undisciplined off the court with the gun charges and everything else. And they got to keep disciplining him and stuff like that. And it's just like, man, I think if they allow Ja to just kind of be Ja, then they would have a guy that can kind of take up the mantle, and he would be back to the guy that they wanted him to be, because the best players that we talk about as being generational all had that chip on their shoulder and that FU mentality when it came to their play. And I feel like John Morant has it. I feel like Ant Edwards also has it, but Ja more so than Ant does. Ant just wants to hoop. He said it in other interviews. I just want to hoop. Like, that's all I want to do is I just want to hoop. But like, it's going to be tough to do that because Adidas is pushing the envelope to make you the face, because Adidas is like, we got the guy. We're going to make the commercials. We're going to follow that same Jordan vein of calling out the haters and showcasing this and going at everybody. They want Ant to be that guy. And ESPN's trying to push it too, but it's tough. It's very tough because when these guys are gone, there is no LeBron, there is no Steph Curry. I mean, Steph will probably be there another 2-3 years, maybe after LeBron, if they don't go at the same damn time. Like, there's like these guys that change the game. It's going to be really, really tough for them to replace these guys because they're not going to allow, as much as Wemby might be able to do it, he's international. They're not going to allow an international guy to be the face of the NBA.
Right. I was just going to ask you because the guys you mentioned, Ja, Ant, Zion, all Americans, right? SGA wins a title. Wins the MVP, possibly a title coming up. He's Canadian, right? Canadian. He represents Team Canada. So, so it can't be SGA, right? It can't be Wemby because he's French. It can't be Luka. It can't be the Joker because they're all international players, right?
Yep.
So, which kind of sucks for the NBA. Why can't they make him the face? Why can't they make one of these four guys? The Joker, we know he's never going to want to be the face, right? Like we know that's not happening. But why not Wemby? Why not SGA?
Because they can't push the cultural USA button. Because if you think about it, these guys like Michael Jordan, Magic, Bird, they didn't just slap a Boston Celtics logo on them. They also slapped a Team USA jersey on them. And then you watch them in the Olympics win for their country. When the season is over, these guys don't win for their country. So they can't market that. Okay. You know what I mean? Like as much as they want that international pull and they have it more than they have a USA pull. They're betting on Cooper Flagg being that dude. They need Cooper Flagg to be that dude. It's going to be really, really hard. It's going to be very hard for him to do it, but they want him to. And Halliburton, he's a cornball. Like, he ain't that guy.
Yeah,
he is not that guy.
I mean, he's a phenomenal basketball player. He's just not that guy.
Nope.
Like, I just don't think he's that guy. You got to, when you're the guy, you have to have some sort of, Steph Curry, he can, he's doing shit we've never seen, right? LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Magic, Bird. Tyrese Halliburton doesn't have that generational talent doing something else that not everyone can do. And he doesn't command the room like those other guys.
They just posted, NBA just posted a 4-minute, like, Tyrese Halliburton no-look passes. And it's literally just him, like, looking at him, looking away real quick, passing the ball, and doing a spin. And other comments are like, this is not a no-look pass.
Yeah. Like,
they're trying. They're trying. They got to find something.
But also, Rafa, we're talking about, like, I think Colin Cowherd said it. It's kind of like the next superstar needs to have their own, like, aura to themselves.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Tatum does not have it. But all, like, the previous guys, they like, most certainly had it. And I 100% agree with Ryan saying with, like, having that Team USA logo on your back. Because, like, if you think of, like, some of the best moments outside of, like, the NBA for their careers, like, you can just see them with the Team USA logo on, like Kobe shushing the crowd, like Magic, the whole dream team, like those pictures, the rings, everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's why I say that Zion completely dropped the ball, because he was in the right market to do it. Like, New Orleans is a really good market for them to play up on his name. I have the pair of Zions up here somewhere, and it's a shoe with like skulls on it because they're trying to go into that like voodoo New Orleans type thing. They like Nike wanted that, NBA wanted that, right? Like they were able to market him in way more ways than just his basketball, because he was jumping out of the gym like LeBron was. They had the high school highlights of Zion playing against the 4'0" white kid and dunking on everybody in high school, right? Like they had the the timeline of look at him in high school. He, was doing this in high school. Then he's busting out of a shoe at Duke. Now he's in New Orleans, and they could have marketed the shit out of everything that he was doing with a voodoo outlook from being in New Orleans and just going by the name Zion. He didn't need his last name. Like one name, they would have been done. I mean, that's why there's the Kobe. That's why there's the Shaq. That's why there's AI, right? That's why it's a pair of Jordans. Like Zion had it. They had everything. And he decided to be undisciplined. So I feel like now they're searching for the right market for him because he doesn't want to be in New Orleans. He wants to be somewhere else. And I mean, not for nothing. I feel like if they send him to Atlanta, he would be able to have a team player in Trae Young so that he didn't have to be the guy, but he could still produce the highlights, right? Because they need a guy in Atlanta. And I know they're looking at Giannis, like he's in the mix for maybe going to Atlanta, but I think Zion could be that guy in Atlanta where he's in a bigger market surrounded by other teams. I mean, obviously me being a Falcons fan, I know that like surrounded by all these other teams in Georgia that he can do this in because he obviously doesn't like the New Orleans market. So he needs to be somewhere else where they can market him, and he needs to become a lot more disciplined and have the players around him that keep him honest because he's not going to do it.
Right. So you mentioned Cooper Flag.
Yeah.
Now I think he's the next coming of Larry Bird. I was very impressed with him at Duke, right? To me, I was super impressed with him at Duke. I think can be a Larry Bird type player, can do it all on the court type of player as Larry Bird did. Obviously, Larry Bird, in my opinion, is one of the 4 greatest players of all time, or 5. So can he do that if he's drafted to the Mavs? Can he do that right away in Dallas?
No. It's going to be growing pains. I mean, what he did, and that's the thing, everybody's going to rest their hat on what he did against last year's Team USA in practice. That's going to be there's going to be a lot of talk about what he did against LeBron and those guys in practice because he was a 17, 18-year-old kid doing this against Team USA. So I think a lot of guys are going to rest their hat on. We saw what he did up against Team USA. That's going to be the hype. We saw what he did at Duke, this, that, whatever, but he's not a closer. And we saw that when he was at Duke, even though we were very impressed, he's not a closer. And that's the issue. He's going to need some sort of counterpart to come in and close with him. So I think he can get there, but it's going to take a little bit. He's not going to be like Wemby, like where Wemby was making highlights from game 1. Cooper Flag can have some highlights, and there's going to certainly be a Cooper Flag designated highlight on ESPN and everywhere else, but it's not going to be right away. Like it's going to, it's going to be some things, but he's not going to just like crush it right out of the gate. But I think he's going to eventually be that guy, but it's going to take him the same thing that it took Wemby. It's going to take some bulking up. It's going to take some time, and it's going to take some work, but I think he can get there. He certainly can, be that next guy, but it's going to be hard for him to be that face, man. It really is going to be hard for him to be that face.
Now, do you think, and we're talking about Cooper Flag, and Dallas has the number 1 pick. Dallas, to me, I look at it as a team that can win right away, right? With Kyrie and AD. If they're both healthy, I believe they can win right away. With the pieces they have around them. If you're Dallas, do you trade Cooper Flag, right? And I would, if I'm Dallas, and I try and find a team that can give me a superstar type player. Maybe not Giannis because you have AD, and AD clearly doesn't want to play the 5. Giannis really can't play the 3, and AD wants to play the 4, and he can play the 4. And in Dallas, with Lively and a couple of the bigs they have, he can definitely play the 4. So maybe not Giannis, but another superstar player that they can trade Cooper Flag for, and then maybe Cooper can go to a team and maybe lead that team to a playoff run and so on, and then maybe grow that maybe a legacy sooner rather than going to Dallas. Because I think if he goes to Dallas, I don't think he can become the generational talent that people believe he can right out the gate. And not even the first year. I'm talking even 2-3 years. I think if he goes to that Dallas team, I think it's going to take him 4 or 5 years to even maybe get to a level of even Jaylen Brown, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, if they trade away the number 1 pick, Nico is on the first rocket ship out of Dallas, like gone, because they tried to kill him when they got rid of Luka. Like
Right.
it,
Right.
if he goes anywhere else, man, like God, God help. Yeah, if he goes to the Celtics, God help him. I mean, the onus for what for what Matt's saying, Cooper Flag to the Celtics, is that you're thinking that either Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum are out of Boston, which is
Right.
highly likely, and that pick goes to Boston, and Cooper Flag ends up a Celtic. But I think if that happens, I don't think it's a bad trade, because and if I'm Dallas, I want Jaylen Brown. I don't want Jason Tatum. Coming off of the injury, but I also feel like Tatum's not the face of the NBA, but he is the face of the Boston Celtics right now.
Oh,
And the
100%.
Celtics need that guy more than Jaylen Brown. And Jaylen Brown, he's a role player. He's a superstar role player to be complete about it. He is a guy that can take over a game and is the silent face of the Boston Celtics. But Jason Tatum is that dude that you prop up on every single one of your posters and everything else. If Jaylen Brown goes to Dallas and Cooper Flag heads off to Boston, Jaylen Brown becomes part of the 3 that they now have in Dallas, right? He joins with Kyrie and AD, and then Jaylen Brown's there. And I think he's the X factor for Dallas. So I think that would be a good scenario for Dallas, and they would have more success earlier if it was Brown going to the Mavericks. But I also feel like if Nico passes up on taking a Cooper Flag, that's his job. That's his job. They'll want to hang him from the streets, man. They're already taking coffins and everything else to the damn stadium. Like, he cannot pass up that number 1 pick, and mostly because he's already lost the fan base with the decisions that he made throughout the year.
I think another team that would work, and you'd have to package more players. But I think a piece like Tyler Hero going to Dallas, and Hero's not worth the first overall pick, but Hero and a package of other players would be a perfect package for Dallas, I think. Because you have AD and you have Kyrie, and you need another scorer. Tyler Hero is not going to be Jaylen Brown needs the ball in his hands a lot. Tyler Hero doesn't need the ball in his hands all game long to score 20. You know what I mean? And so maybe something like that, where Cooper goes to Miami with Bam. It's a little bit better situation for Cooper going forward. And it's a great situation for Dallas, because you'd get a guy like Tyler Hero and then adding other pieces, obviously, in that trade. I don't think you can give up just Tyler Hero for the number 1 pick. It'd have to be Tyler Hero and then a handful of other picks and players. But that I can also see happening.
Yeah, Dallas needs defense more than they need anything. And that's obviously why they got rid of Luka. But like, offense is not Dallas's problem whatsoever. I mean, it is until Kyrie comes back, because he's their scorer and he's going to have to be their guy. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it would have to be a lot of picks to give up that number 1.
I just think when I
still
look
think
at
he'd be
Dallas,
crazy to do it.
I love Blake Lively. I mean, this kid, Derek Lively at the 5. Blake Lively is a wonderful person as well, but Derek Lively playing the 5 with AD at the 4. I think you have a very strong defensive front court, right? And then PJ Washington for them plays the 3. If you brought in Tyler Hero to play the 2, and then you have a little bit more balance, I believe. And to me, if you put that, Dallas to me is 1 player away from being the best team in the Western Conference, if not the best team in the NBA. Because I really believe Kyrie and AD will playing together are that good. I really do. And I think Nico thought the same thing.
Until they both got hurt.
Until they both got hurt. Because you saw that first game, AD had 26 at halftime or something. Yeah. Like, he just looked phenomenal. And then obviously, they both got hurt. AD came back. They won a play-in game. But it just wasn't enough. And you saw it wasn't enough. Yeah. So, but I'd just like to see Cooper in a situation, more of a solo, not a solo act, but in Miami, he'd have Bam. And Bam's he's not a real number 1. Bam's a number 2. Can Cooper be a number 1? If you trade Bam for Giannis to Milwaukee, is Bam a number 1? I mean, Cooper would be a number 2 for a little bit. playing with Lillard. But it's going to be interesting, and I think draft week, I think is going to be a crazy week for the NBA. It might be more exciting than the first night of the NFL draft, I think.
Probably.
For me.
I just think that Cooper Flag needs a counterpart so that he doesn't have to be the number one right away. Because, as I said, he's not a closer. He needs somebody that can close a game out, because unless he can do it, they're not going to win games, right? If he's a solo guy out the gate that they have to rely on to be the closer. So I think he certainly will need another counterpart in order to truly be the guy in the long run. So that's why I say Dallas keep that number one pick, allow him to work with Kyrie, work with AD, where they can certainly handle the things that need to be handled, where he's part of a team and a system, as opposed to going somewhere where he doesn't have as many tools to work with and as many people to learn from. So that's my perspective, because for me, he's not a Wemby. He's not a guy that you can rely on out the gate that's going to get blocks, it's going to get steals, it's going to get, that's going to pick up these different things for you.
I just think when we're looking at the guys that we were talking about generational, right? Like LeBron came onto a team where he had to be the guy, right? Michael Jordan came onto a team where he had to be the guy. They didn't really become that next level player until they got a piece, right?
Mm-hmm.
LeBron went to the finals, but they had nobody, right? Jordan needed Pippen to become a piece. Kobe had Shaq, right? Bird came into a great situation with Boston, right? They had all sorts of players. Magic comes onto the Lakers, he has all sorts of players. Steph needed time. Although, when Steph got to Golden State, Monte Ellis was a better player than Steph Curry right out the gate, right? So, but they still needed to take their bumps and bruises and still get the shots. I think if Cooper goes to Dallas, I don't think he's going to get the shots. I don't even think he gets 10 shots a game, because you look at what PJ Washington gives them, and he's a very good scorer. He's a 15 to 17 point a night player. So for Cooper to go there, because even Wemby went to San Antonio rookie year, they were awful, right? But he got his chance to shine. I would like to see Cooper in a spot where he can shine and see what he can do, and see if, their rookies are going to have bumps and bruises for sure. We've seen it always, right? With the exception of probably Shaq. And although the team did have bumps and bruises, he was just so fucking big and dominant. He was phenomenal, right? Right? There was no doubt about it, right? And we saw Giannis, bumps and bruises plenty of times. I mean, he weighed probably 180 pounds when he got in the fucking league. So I'd like to see Cooper in a situation where he's kind of not a solo act, because in Miami they have Bam, but Bam's a number two, maybe something like that. Maybe, I don't know, somewhere else, not Dallas for me. But
I guess I feel like he's gonna need like a year or two to develop into the player that we want him to. So that's why I think working with guys that can pass him the torch and him not have to come in day one and be handed it and like, this is your team now. I think that's a better case scenario for a guy like Cooper Flag, because it's just, for me, something's missing that he has to learn.
Yeah, I think at the end of the game, right, when the game against Houston, that they relied on him so heavy to close that game, and you saw it, which is why we know that he's not a closer, right? But the plays that were run weren't great plays for a guy to even close, smaller court, etc. All sorts of different shit went on there, right? He didn't find he didn't make the correct plays down in the post. He forced some shots, got laid down in the shot clock, all of that. That is what basically you're saying that he needs. The thing is, when I look at Dallas, he can come into Dallas, but for me, when I see Kyrie and AD, I think those guys are still 3 years of great seasons for them, staying healthy, of course. So I think there we're not going to see his full potential until maybe year 4 or 5. And with Ant, when Ant went to Minnesota, we saw his potential right away. Even though they had Cat, we saw his potential right away because he was able to play, right? Yeah. And he was the second guy right out the gate, basically. Minnesota had nothing else there, right? So that's what I want to see with Cooper. And I think him going here, if we really look at it, he might be the 4th option, not even the 3rd. going into Dallas. And I think if he went to Miami, he's the first or the second. I think if he goes to, other teams, Charlotte, he'd be the second guy.
Yeah.
I
Because
mean,
we're
they're-
forgetting that Clay can still shoot when he needs to.
Oh, that's
So-
right. Fucking Klay Thompson. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
I wrote
Matthew,
off Clay, who's, one of my favorite two-way fucking guards of all time.
Matthew just said Kyrie, Clay, Flag, AD, Lively is a great starting five. And Senior Citizen Support said Dallas has a 2-year window with Kyrie and AD.
And I agree with that. And I think that's why Cooper Flag going there would be perfect. He'd have 2 years to learn from these guys. And let's face it, AD hasn't been healthy for a full year hardly ever. So
Yeah.
so Cooper Flag gonna get his because AD is gonna go down at some point, whether it's 10 games in or 60 games in. AD is gonna go down at some point where Cooper Flag's gonna have to step up and it's gonna have to be his game. Plus, I mean, if you think about it, I don't think that Kyrie is going to be ready game 1 next year. I mean, he's a torn ACL, so that's going to take time.
He's probably not going to be ready till Christmas.
Exactly.
If-
So
if
that also gives Cooper Flag some time to truly be the guy. So I feel like that 2-year window is kind of perfect for him because he can come in, be the guy out of the gate, and then when Kyrie comes back, they learn how to play together, and then he starts to truly learn what it is to be, that kind of guy and be a facilitator as well as take over a game when need be. I think it's a perfect 2-year window, honestly.
You, Mr. Ryan Holmes, and Senior Citizen Support have convinced me that the Dallas Mavericks should draft Cooper Flag and let him go to work.
They
Good
should.
shit. Yeah, you're right. Matthew Rocha here wants to give them all the injured stars. He wants to trade them all
Yeah.
over to Dallas.
Senior,
He's trying to get rid of Tatum.
Oh,
Yeah.
God, he is. Senior Citizen Support's got 2 questions for us. First one, he asked, is Cooper Flag the most NBA ready in the lottery right now?
I think so. Some of those French guys that these guys think and this and that. I don't know. I don't know. I think for me, Cooper Flag is the most ready. And like Ryan alluded to earlier when he said, when they practiced with Team USA and they had those scrimmages there, and he was phenomenal, right? And it was LeBron, Steph, and all those guys. So to me, I think he's the most NBA ready that we've had in a while, maybe with the exception of Wemby. But college NCAA players, I think he's got to be the one we've seen the most since maybe Ant, right?
Yeah, I agree with that.
And then he also asked, out of these 2 prospects, who has a higher ceiling, Carter Bryant or Ace Bailey?
What do you think, Ryan?
I think Ace Bailey does. Higher ceiling. I do. I think it's Ace Bailey. I can't tell you why. I just feel like, like sometimes when you just watch a guy, you're like, that guy has it, right? Like
damn, that guy could play.
Yeah, like that dude's just a baller, man. Like he just wants to ball. Like KD is just a baller. Like,
right.
And you could just see it. I think it's more Ace Bailey than it is Carter Bryant.
I think Ace Bailey, purely because his offense, like his shooting is a little better than Carter Bryant's. And like NBA, that could take you way further.
I think so.
Yeah. So I think it's probably a
100%.
shitty answer by me, but it's just like one of those eye test things where you're just like man, that like when you watch a certain quarterback, right? You're like, when that dude gets into the right system, he's gonna just absolutely jump levels. And it's not because of a certain like one type of ability, just because you can see the potential in a guy and you're like, that guy needs the right coaching and the right system and he's going to flourish. So I feel like it's Bailey, where he can kind of take off once he gets kind of that right community around him to do those things. So again, like I think it's kind of it's probably a really dumb sports journalist kind of answer from me, but like you have these guys that you can see in every sport. And I think I do it a lot when I'm talking wrestling, is you have these young cats that come up and you're like, that kid's going to be good, right? Like he may be losing now. He may not be hitting on all cylinders, but give him the right community to be in and he's going to take off. So I think that's kind of where I'm at with Ace Bailey.
And you brought up Durant a minute ago when comparing these 2 guys. So with Durant now in Phoenix, we know he didn't want to be there. They fired Coach Bud already. So back-to-back seasons, they fired their head coach, right? And they've they'll have 4 coaches in 4 seasons. Does Durant move? And where can we see Durant where it fits? I think Houston would be a fit for Durant. I think they need a real big-time scorer to take that next step for Houston, right? We saw them take the Warriors 7 games. I didn't think that would even happen. They have plenty of pieces on that Rocket team that they can trade for Durant. Do you see Durant moving? And if you do, where do you see him moving?
Man, I do see Durant moving. Ultimately, I do. I think it's going to be a really interesting offseason for the NBA. I think that Anthony Edwards is going to push like hell to get Kevin Durant. He loves Kevin Durant. Like,
oh yeah, that's his
favorite player
who he's looked up to.
Favorite player, and that's what he said. Again, in that documentary when they were at the Olympics, they asked him like, "What are you looking forward to?" And he's like, "I just can't wait to link up with KD. Like, he has been my favorite player in the NBA. I think he's gonna push hard to get KD, and I don't think it's gonna be too hard for them to get him. Honestly, if they want to,
I think if Minnesota though tries to pull a move for Durant, I think you have to give up McDaniels and you have to give up Naz Reid.
Yeah,
so
I can see that.
And now you're eliminating the 6th man on your team, the guy who can score the basketball off the bench, which you'll then need to add. But I think that's a great fit. I think Minnesota is a great fit as well. I really like Houston to fit in there because I think they have pieces that they can trade, young pieces that they can trade that Phoenix would be happy to take back. When you look at that roster, there's plenty of guys. They've done well in the draft. And with Fred VanVleet, who can lead a team, and I'm not talking about lead a team in scoring. I'm talking about a floor general player. You saw it with Toronto with Kawhi and Siakam. And you know, he kind of took the lead there in that year for Toronto when they beat the Warriors from Lowry. So I think Houston, Minnesota is a great fit as well. I've seen rumors of Miami, but because Pat Riley just does so much. Pat Riley just always somehow gets a guy, right? He got Jimmy. You know, he always finds a way to get a guy, right? So, but how about the Knicks? What happens with the Knicks after, you know, if they lose tomorrow night, and let's say they lose a series 4-1 or even 4-2, and you had a chance to get to the finals, and this is the best chance the Knicks have had since, you know, 94, right?
Yeah, the 90s.
Or 95 or whatever it was. So this is the best chance they've had, and they came up short to a Pacers team that a very good team, but not a great team. So they need to add a piece. Do they go after Kevin Durant? They have some pieces they can give up.
I don't know if he wants to go back to New York though, right? Like he was in Brooklyn, and that didn't work at all. Like those dudes never played together. They were like, oh, this is the next big 3. Those dudes were never on the court together, like ever. So I don't know. I honestly, I think you're right with Houston though. He's a Texas boy. I mean, he went to UT. He loves it here. He loves it here in Texas. The only other thing I would say is, you know, they maybe even San Antonio. I don't know if it's even possible.
They have the number 2 pick.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like maybe it's a possibility because, you know, and for me, I look at it from not just a basketball standpoint, but a marketability standpoint. Like San Antonio is marketed like crazy here in Austin, right? Like the the Austin Spurs, they play right here, right? And it's the San Antonio club team. So like they play right here, and San Antonio plays in Austin all the time. So like when you look at that, like they play a couple of times. I shouldn't say all the time, but they play a couple of times a year here in Austin. And this past year, when they played here for the first time, they played against Phoenix because KD was coming back. So like it was truly a thing. So like the marketability of KD either coming back to Texas or playing with Ant, where they're like, man, now Ant has a guy that he can truly facilitate to and a guy he looks up to and a guy that can kind of keep him, you know, keep the chip on his shoulder. And yeah, right. Exactly. Like a guy that he truly respects to play with. I think that's a pretty good fit. But I definitely think that Durant is on the move. It's just a matter of where and who's willing to give up the best and the most to get him.
Well, San Antonio is a number 2 pick, and when we look forward a little bit to next year, when we look at some of the teams, right? Houston, we know what Houston did. Can the Lakers make a move for another guy and some defensive players, some shooters? But you have to take it. You have to look at San Antonio with Wemby, De'Aaron Fox. They have some pieces there where if they add a Kevin Durant, like you said, that could be one of the 3 best teams in the West, right? Maybe one of the 3 best teams, 4 best teams in the league. If they add Durant. And I think they're going to be a top 6 team the way they're constructed right now with a healthy De'Aaron Fox and a healthy Wemby. I think they can be. So you're right. I think if they can add Durant, and they do have the number 2 pick. So they have that number 2 pick this year.
But is that too much to give up for an aging Kevin Durant though? Like let's face it, like a number 2 pick is pretty hefty.
It's hefty, but if you're San Antonio, you made a move for De'Aaron Fox. Which is basically we're ready to take that next step to win a title, to get us back to the Western Conference Finals. Can Kevin Durant do that for us? Maybe even, is Devin Booker ever going to move? Or is he just going to rot in Phoenix as arguably one of the 3 best shooting guards in the league? And he's just going there to just kind of rot away? Because Devin Booker, when I watch Devin Booker play, I think Devin Booker is one of the 2 or 3 best shooting guards in the league. To me, if you're asking me for a clutch player to carry a team today, and I know that people are going to go crazy, I take Devin Booker over Ant. I think he's a better scorer than Ant. I think he's a better shooter than Ant. Ant's more dynamic. Obviously, he can get to the basket. He can elevate like Jordan. He can shoot the 3 a little bit. He can shoot the basketball. But Devin Booker is just rotting away in Phoenix the last handful of years. I think he should kind of fucking get out there and say, hey, maybe I can move because you brought Durant, you brought in Bradley Beal. It didn't fucking work. Maybe you can move me and blow this whole fucking thing up.
I think he's on the way out too. I think they just clean house, honestly. They got to start from scratch and rebuild. So I can see Booker on the way out as well.
Booker would be a great fit in San Antonio. Booker's worth the number 2 pick in the draft.
Booker is worth a number 2.
I think Booker's worth a number 2 pick in the draft and fucking 2 more number 1s behind that.
Yes.
And you had Devin Booker, and who's played with Chris Paul. So he's played with a ball-dominant point guard. and they got to an NBA Finals with Chris Paul. De'Aaron Fox he's a ball-dominant, not as much as Chris Paul. De'Aaron Fox gives you a little bit more scoring. San Antonio, the number 2 pick, can they move to get Devin Booker? That might be a better fit for them to maybe add a piece and get to that next level. Because I think San Antonio is just, people are going to say, well, they haven't made the playoffs. I don't think they're a make the playoffs team anymore. I think they're a Western Conference Finals team with making a trade for De'Aaron Fox is what I think it is. And now it's add a piece to kind of get us there, solidify the roster and get us there and maybe even win the Western Conference.
Yeah.
So Devin Booker.
Eddie's in the Instagram. He said, you guys need to stick to barbecue talk and tacos.
D-Book to the Lakers, Matthew Rocha says, by the way.
Yeah, if D-Book does go to the Lakers, they make him the face of the league. Because that's a big market. That's a huge market. And I think he can take over as the face of the league if D-Book goes to LA.
He's already got a pop and shoot.
If I'm the Lakers, I give up every first round pick until 2035. I fucking give them fucking Austin Reeves. I give them whoever they want, and there you go. If I'm the Lakers, because you got to think LeBron's got 2 years left, maybe, right? And I know whatever 25, 7, 8, whatever the fuck it was, right? Realistically, though, he's got to eventually kind of just ride away into the sunset, right? Like just ride away and call it a day. Because let's be real, the way he plays, the way he looks, this man could probably play till 45 and still average 28 and 7 or whatever, right? So he's got to call it quits and like, bro, like that's it, because it's fucking too much. And if you get Devin Booker, LeBron can kind of easily just ride away in the next year or two, because the Lakers will be in great hands with Luka and Booker.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great one, by the way. D-Book to the Lakers, I think would be a great move.
Easily face of the league. Easily.
Is that not too much for a team? D-Book, Luka, and LeBron.
No, because
LeBron's fading. LeBron's 40 plus years old. Like, you have to remember that. Like, LeBron's not fucking 35. This is if this was 2020 and you brought in Devin Booker, okay. But this is 2025.
Very different.
This is 2025. LeBron is fading. Like, he's literally, he should just ride into the sunset at any minute. And I think if they get Devin Booker, I think it'll be easier for him to just kind of like, all right, that's it. I'm the third option on the team. You know, what am I fucking doing?
Time.
Right?
Even
like,
if, even if Booker went to like the Warriors, I still think they try and make him face of the league. It's not going to happen in Phoenix. It's just not going to happen in Phoenix. No. He needs to be with a team that has won championships. And like, you know, obviously Steve Kerr is there and he's going to be there. And I think he would love to coach Devin Booker. And then that, you know, that allows for the Steph Curry to ride off into the sunset, right? Like that's another, these guys need a successor is really truly what it is. So these teams, they're going to have to figure out who's the face, right? Who's the guy that is not just going to be able to be the face of our team, but the face of the league as well. And Steph Curry is a face of the league. LeBron James is a face of the league. Devin Booker can be that guy, whether he goes to LA or he goes to Golden State. I think he can. I think that.
Even if he went to Chicago, I think he could be the face of the league.
Maybe. No, I just don't think they're as big of markets anymore in Chicago. Because, I mean, Jimmy Butler was in Chicago. It didn't really work out.
Jimmy's not a face, though. And Jimmy's not a face. Like, Derrick Rose was in Chicago and it was a big deal. And Jimmy's just not a face guy. He's just not that guy. He doesn't score enough. He plays a lot of, like, it's just, I don't think Jimmy can ever be a face type of guy for me. So, but D-Book definitely needs to move from Phoenix. The Lakers would be a great fucking fit. Philly, if they can figure out what they got fucking going on over there, they got a shit show in Philadelphia. So, but it's going to be exciting, to be honest with you.
Matthew Rocha said everything evaporates in Phoenix. It's that hot ass desert.
Yeah, they've got to blow it up though.
Take a trip to Arizona at some point. You'll have some fun.
So
yeah, blazing hot down there.
It's a good time. It's a good time in Tempe.
I like Phoenix. I like the area. Great golf.
Yeah.
Is that the only reason why? Because of the golf?
Well, it's great golf. They have it's like the third best destination in the United States for golf, if not the second. So
Phil Mickelson created the ASU golf course. He's the one that did like all of it, like all the creation. Like Phil Mickelson, I believe, was the guy that did it. I think it was him. I when I had a tour of ASU when we were there, we did a trip there. We were covering the wrestling team and got a chance to go all over ASU. They said that I think it was Phil Mickelson was there because I think his son went there or something and did like all the the design for their golf course. And I think now there's like a newer one there. Like they like put bigger buildings and shit over the old golf course, and it's like now a huge golf facility, and they changed the course. But back in, what was that? I think it was like 2018, maybe 2019 when I was there. Yeah, that place is dope.
Yeah, and Scottsdale's insane for golf courses. There's so many great courses, all the troop courses, PGA. There's plenty of courses down there. So it's fucking awesome. But as we're still on we're stay on basketball a little bit, but we're going to shift over to the ladies. Shift over to the ladies basketball.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought?
Rafa bringing up the WNBA by himself.
Man, Ryan, have you been watching a little bit or no?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so you've been watching a little bit of the drama, right? The Caitlin, the Angel Reese drama, all of that stuff, right? So, to me, it bothers me that they're trying to make it a Bird and Magic thing, right? Bird was white, Magic was black.
It's the low-hanging fruit.
East Coast, West Coast type of deal, right? That's what they made it back then, and it was great for the NBA. They were great players. To me, Angel Reese doesn't hold up her end of the bargain on the play. right? Like there could be a rivalry, but she doesn't hold up her end of the bargain. So why does ESPN shove it down everyone's fucking throat? Like if A'ja Wilson was just coming into the league at the same time as Caitlin Clark, fine. Because A'ja Wilson is a phenomenal women's basketball player.
She leads her team in every single stat. It's insane.
And it's insane. She's a phenomenal, but Angel Reese does not. It's not the same. They're not on the same level. As much as Angel wants to be on the same level as Caitlin, it's not close. And
you that know kind why?
Of well, because you can't score the basketball. It's why.
That's exactly why. They're not both scorers. So no. When the Bird and Magic thing, yeah, like the Bird and Magic thing, it's because it's a black player versus a white player. It's the low hanging fruit. Yeah, like that. It's the easiest thing to do. So that's what they're gonna do. While Angel Reese, I hate when people say Angel Reese sucks at basketball. She doesn't suck at basketball. She really doesn't. She's not a shitty basketball player. I'm sorry, but like those women in the W, they're ballers. Like they can play. Like the keyboard warriors, I dare you to go to a women's practice. Like they actually fight worse than the men do. And that's what's so funny to me is, and I'm not going to claim that I was always watching the WNBA or anything else like that, but I was watching the Diana Taurasi's. I was watching when Sue Bird was coming into the league. I was watching, I do remember Lisa Leslie. I do remember these women that came before them, and they used to fight the same damn way. Like it is a rough league. And the funniest thing about it is when you watch the men, you see more acting and flopping in the men's league than you do in the women's. And that's the thing for me is like, everybody wants to say that they're out to get Caitlin Clark. No, every rookie is treated this way. Juju Watkins will be treated the exact same way that Caitlin Clark was treated. She will be. She will be. Caitlin's not the first person that was ever treated that way. She's not. If you go back and actually like watch these games, these rookies get punched all the time. Kelsey Plum, when she talks about playing against Diana Taurasi used to elbow her in the chest. Like they used to beat the hell out of these rookies, and they still do. So she's not the first person that this has ever happened to. Now, the Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark thing, it's a race thing. That's why they keep hammering it because, I mean, here's a little secret. If you can rile up the fan base, it's good for clicks, people. And that's just what it is. And that's why they're going to continue to push this button. It's not because they think that Angel Reese is some other like out of this world basketball player. She's good, and she was good at Maryland before she went to LSU. She led in offensive rebounds back then when she was at Maryland, and was, I think, like a what was she, like a conference player or something, player of the year when she was at Maryland before she even got to LSU. And her and Caitlin played against each other back then. Nobody remembers that because it wasn't as big of a deal because Maryland wasn't winning. They didn't have a they didn't have a Kim Mulkey who was wearing crazy shit on the sideline but had a huge mouth, right? Like it just didn't pan out. So they're going to push that racial button at all times. Like Ionescu versus Clark, that's a rivalry. That is a rivalry if I've ever seen one in the WNBA. Ionescu versus A'ja Wilson, those are rivalries because those two ladies are scorers and they go hard, right? But like the reason that it works is because Angel Reese taunted Caitlin Clark. And it, like I said, it's a racial aspect to all of it as well. And as we know right now, this world is in racial flames. So if sports can push that button, they're going to do it. And it's low-hanging fruit for literally everyone to continue to push that button. Now, am I on the RG3 train and think that Angel Reese hates Caitlin Clark? No, I think they're basketball players. And the rivalry you should look out for is what's the girl's name? Ryan Howard versus Caitlin Clark. They battle like they hate each other. And that is a true battle because Ryan Howard had the 3-point record and Angel Reese tied it against Ryan Howard and hit the 3 over Ryan Howard. And that was in the rookie season. She had the rookie 3 record and Caitlin Clark tied it by hitting a 3 over Ryan Howard. So that's a rivalry. But the Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark thing, it's going to continue throughout their careers until they decide to appear together or interview each other and sit down and actually talk this shit out. But fan bases don't want that.
No, and actually,
think-
when you watched the All-Star game last year, they were very friendly
Yeah.
during the All-Star game. And
Yeah, they don't
and
hate each other.
And leading up to the game. So the thing that, Brittany Griner calling her a fucking white girl, that kind of reminds me of what was it, Luka against the Clippers, and I think it was, I don't know, Marquis for Marcus Morris or whatever, calling
Yeah,
Luka
bitch
white
ass white
boy or whatever. Yeah, like that. That I don't think that I know, and she said it on the sideline, right? Like the camera caught her. I don't
Yeah.
think it's that big of a deal because it wasn't,
not.
number one, it wasn't on the floor and it wasn't to her face, right? And we can never, because it's not a thing to say, oh, that fucking black girl, because it's not a thing, but it's always been a thing. White boy, white girl, that's always been a thing. So I
Because
think
everybody grew up playing in the park, and the white dude that could ball, you were gonna call it out, like, ooh, white boy can shoot.
100%.
You know what I mean? So that's,
100.
and these girls grew up in the same exact sort of area.
Yeah, so
The same
I
thing.
don't get mad at Brittany Griner calling her a white girl. She did on the sideline. And anyways, if you played basketball or football, or you played anything on the streets, at a park, in a gym, it always happened. Fuck, this white boy's hot. Fuck, he's on fire, and so on and so on. So I don't think that's that big of a deal. But for Cheryl Swoops to come out and actually believe that Angel Reese is a better player than Caitlin Clark, she's out of her mind. She's out of her mind. Because if we're looking at Angel Reese, let's be real. She's a Dennis Rodman type player, and Caitlin Clark is a Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, LeBron James type player.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm not going to say Michael Jordan because she can pass the ball a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Jordan had no desire to pass the rock, right? So, but she's that type of player, and Caitlin is generational, as is Asia Wilson, as was, in my opinion, Cynthia Cooper.
Mhm.
So, with the Houston Comets, Eddie Money, by the way, if you didn't know.
Didn't even know that was a thing.
Are you kidding?
Houston
This-
Comets.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Dude, listen, if the WNBA would have started in 1990, Cynthia Cooper would be the best WNBA player of all time.
She was a baller, man.
She was a fucking baller, but the league started when that woman was 34 years old.
Yeah.
But she
I mean,
could play.
And that's the thing. Everybody in today's game too, they know Dawn Staley as the South Carolina basketball coach. They forget that Dawn Staley was not just playing in the WNBA; she was also coaching Temple at the same time. So she would go from look it up. Dawn Staley was playing in the W, but then she was also the head coach of Temple basketball during like her couple of years of playing in the W. Like Dawn Staley she's the shit, man. Like that's why I have so much respect for what Dawn Staley did.
She was a baller, and I think she was the point guard for that Team USA with Rebecca Lobo and Lisa Leslie, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
and she won gold. Like those players were legit, but I mean, Angel Reese isn't a better basketball player than Caitlin Clark. Angel Reese isn't. I don't even think that Angel Reese is even like a top 10 basketball player in the W. I'm sorry, but I don't think she is. Like,
I don't think she's even close to.
Yeah, like she's a good player, but
but I don't think she's even. She's not even
nowhere near there.
If you looked at it right now, I don't even think we can consider her one of the 20 better players in the league. She's not even.
She wasn't even the best player when she was at LSU. She was great at rebounding. She was great because she was aggressive and everything else. But Flage is that girl. Like that's the one that you're waiting to hit the court like in the W. But like, I mean, the rivalry it's easy because it gets people riled up and it has people getting all pissed off. But no, I mean, Angel's good. So for people that say she's not even good at basketball, this, that, and whatever, like. I mean, you can pump the brakes on that. I don't think there's a horrible basketball player in the W. I don't. You know what I mean? Like I don't think that happens. Because there's still professionals at the end of the day.
There's no horrible athlete in any professional sport.
Exactly. Like it doesn't.
If you're a professional at any, if it doesn't matter if you're a women's basketball player, a women's soccer player, or a man's a soccer player or a baseball player. You're not
Yeah.
horrible to the everyday Joe. You
No.
may be horrible in the league to the other compared to the other players,
Yeah.
but you're not horrible to an everyday to us. If you got on the court with us, you're not horrible, but
Exactly.
you're not great in the league you're in. Obviously, right? Is what Ryan is basically saying.
Yeah.
So like, let's pump the brakes on all that shit because I'm tired of like reading that. But I mean, you're gonna see that all the time. But like, just like it just doesn't make any damn sense. Like, guys, they're professional athletes, right? Like they're professional athletes for a reason, and they're being coached by people who know what professional athletes look like. Like, it's really hard to get into to become a professional athlete based on marketing alone. Like it doesn't happen. You know what I mean? So, and I mean, we even see that the rivalry, it means ticket sales. So if they have something to push, they're going to push that. And they know that they can push these buttons. So, and the reason that Caitlin Clark works is because of the Steph Curry factor of it. She's doing what Steph does. So, and when it looked like it was going to be nothing but a LeBron led league, and Steph Curry was like, yeah, I don't need to be 6'17", 320 pounds and run a 4.2 down the court. I'm gonna stay out here and I'm gonna shoot from half court. Like I can shoot from wherever I want. Like that's why everybody's like, man, like this is just different. So when they saw Caitlin Clark doing the same thing on the women's side where she's shooting from the logo, they're like, shit, we got to pay attention to this because that's something that everybody wants to see themselves in these basketball players. There's not a lot of guys that can see themselves in LeBron. It just doesn't work. It's why Michael Jordan was able to work out, because even though he was, he wasn't the size of LeBron and he was doing shit that people didn't really see, you could go out on a basketball court and shout Jordan and try to hit a crazy layup, right? Like you could try and do that stuff. You can't try to be 6'9". Like it doesn't work.
Doesn't work.
That's why
when you lower the court.
Exactly, right? You lower the rim, you're LeBron. But like Steph Curry, that's why it works, because anybody can try and shoot from half court. Same marketability with Caitlin Clark, only she's a woman. So they're like, man, now we have a reason to watch women's sports, because what I see the crazy stuff doing, the crazy shots happening in the NBA are now happening in the W, when in fact the game was probably just as rough as the NBA game was. It's just the fact that they're not giants, running into each other and whatever else. So, I mean, I enjoy watching the W. I'll watch, any of these games. I'll watch a Sparks game. I'll turn on an Aces game. Particularly, I'll watch Sparks versus Aces any day. Like that's a game to me, right? Like Kelsey Plum is a shooter. Like,
yeah, man.
Dude,
did she shoot this much in Vegas? No, right?
She didn't have to.
Asia. But dude, she shoots like, I mean, I see her props. They're like over 21.5. Like, is shooting this many shots? Yeah, the other day she was like 6 and 19. I was like, holy shit, 19 shots.
Because people forget. People forget she was the all-time leading scorer in the NCAA. Caitlin Clark broke Kelsey Plum's record. That's whose record she broke.
Going on there.
A whole lot of shooting, man.
Yeah, 25.
Yeah. These girls are ballers, bro, and they deserve the respect, right? So, we literally just talked about women's wrestling on our podcast today that came out. So like women's sports is blowing up, bro. And the marketability of the women's side of things, it's multifaceted, because even though they're ballers, a lot of these women, they're also very pretty. So when you look at marketability, you can dress them up as well as you could throw on a pair of Nikes and let Paige Beckers go out there and shoot threes like crazy, right? So, like I said, that tunnel walk it probably started in the WNBA, where these women were like, "No, look, we're gonna show that we're still feminine, but we'll give you 15 and 10, right?" So now it transcends over to the NBA, where these dudes want to come in, they want to be fly, they want to have their tunnel walk. But I'm pretty sure that probably started with the women. The women were like, "Yeah, like we'll go out there and bust your head, but don't forget, like I'll throw on a pair of heels and sell my Nikes." That's just what it is.
You know why? I think, for me, anyways, and this is for me with women's sports, with the WNBA and with soccer, and I feel like a lot of people feel the same way that I do. When I watch the WNBA, when I watch women's soccer, the men's are just so much more superior in
Yeah,
those
athleticism
because I can
trumps it,
watch
yeah.
women's tennis, no problem, because I don't see the mistakes that are made, for example, in the WNBA, right? Like you see so many missed layups, so many missed open jumpers from 15 feet. And when you're watching the NBA, you don't see many 15 footers being missed, right? You don't see many missed layups in the NBA. Basically on fast break 2-on-1, and you just see a lot of the WNBA where the ball's just thrown away. So when you compare the two, it's not that women's sports are terrible, but when you watch women in UFC, they're fucking phenomenal. And some nights they're better than the men. When you watch women's tennis, I think it's so competitive and it looks just as good as the men. But when I watch women's soccer and I watch the mistakes that the goalies make, I watch the mistakes that the center backs and the right backs make. You don't get that when you're watching elite men play. Like you can watch the women's women's Team USA soccer, which is the best in the world or one of the two best in the world. And then you watch the men's and you watch the 15th and 16th best team. Their play, and they're better athletes, but their play is superior to watching the women. As when you watch the WNBA, I feel like it's the same thing. When people watch the NBA, they can't watch it because there's so many bad plays that happen. Missed layup after missed layup, missed shot after missed shot. You don't get that with women's wrestling because it's like with UFC, with women's tennis, even with women's golf. But the WNBA, the drop off between the men and the women in the basketball and in soccer, I think is so big that I think that's why they have trouble attracting an audience, right? For men to go and watch it because of that. But I guarantee you gather 100 men and they're going to watch. They don't need the two best women in UFC to watch them go at it because you're going to get a fight from the 21 and 22. Just like in tennis, you're going to get a great match, right? You're rarely going to get a 6-0, 6-0. You're going to get a great tennis match. And when you go to the WNBA to watch it, you're not getting great performances. It's rare that you get a good game, to be honest with you, if it's not four best teams. And you still see a ton of mistakes, and as in soccer, and you don't see that in the other women's sports. And I think that's the difference with people watching those two sports compared to watching the other ones and the competitiveness of it.
Yeah, the athleticism is certainly different. It's a different tier. I mean, even in wrestling, right? Like it's as much as women's wrestling is exploding on that landscape. It's not a 1-to-1. I mean, the positions, the scrambling, the move, like everything, women to men is very watered down, right? Like the men are obviously more athletic, they're stronger, they can do more, they're more tactical, even though there are some women that are like the best tacticians on the women's side. But like athleticism, I think with some of those sports, it's easy, not easy, but like relative to basketball, it's easier for a women's tennis player to run side to side, up and back. It's a lot harder to have the athleticism with the ball in your hands on a basketball court. So that's where I think the athleticism has a drop off, right? So that's the hard part. But I think you're right. Like, I think that's why the marketability just isn't there, because guys are like, man, like, I feel like I'm better than that. Like, that's what a lot of fans think. But you're not. You're certainly not. You may be able to do something a little bit more athletically, but you're not better than they are. Like they have put in the work to do a lot of these things. And I think but if you truly think about it, look at what the men's game used to be. And that's why we look at players now in the men's league, in the NBA, and we're like, man, guys are doing what Michael Jordan used to do, and everybody was oohing and on. I mean, like, and they do it like it's super easy. I mean, I don't know if people have seen, but like you can Google it. When Michael Jordan put the ball behind his back for the first time in a game,
I just saw that last night.
It was like brains exploded, right? Like people had never seen this.
The announcer literally said, MJ, he wrapped the ball around his hand. I can't describe what he just did.
Exactly, right? Now,
that's how it was. Like, but and real quick to cut you off, MJ came in kind of in the league. I feel like George Gervin, not to that level, but George Gervin didn't have the media as Jordan kind of grew, and now these guys obviously. So a lot a lot of people, we didn't get to see George Gervin. But when you go back and watch a little bit of highlight of George Gervin did a lot of things with the basketball and in the air, like Dr. J, shit like that.
Mhm.
Like
The Iceman, man.
yeah, and Dr. J did a lot of things with the basketball that you were in awe of, but the media, the TV deals weren't there for everyone to see it, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I don't want to discredit. I don't want to not take away anything from Mike, because Mike obviously was phenomenal. But like you said, when you watch the NBA on a nightly basis, there's so many guys that can do it now because they're
Yeah.
a lot more athletic and all that.
Mhm.
So, and I don't knock the women for their athleticism. I just feel like the mistakes that are made on the court is what we don't get in some of the other sports from the women. Like that's what I'm saying. Like we're not going to see a lot of the women hit the ball into the net. Like we're not. But we are going to see a lot of the WNBA women's throw a lot of balls away, miss a lot of layups. I don't think their level of their basketball level is not the same. And Matt made a comment a minute ago, which I agree with 1000%, which is they should lower the rim to make the game a little bit more exciting. And maybe I don't know if they play on a smaller court. Do you know if they play on a college size court?
Same court.
No, same court.
They should play on a smaller court, like at a Syracuse fucking gym type size, and maybe lower the rim a little bit. And I think you'll get a better product. I think we'll get less missed layups. I think we'll get better, less missed shots.
You'll get more dunks, that's for sure. And there are women that can dunk on a normal size rim right now. It's just it doesn't happen in games because there's rarely
An opportunity.
there's rarely that fast break opportunity, and not for nothing, it's not as much of a sure thing as it is for men, where men are like, I'm gonna get eye to eye with the rim. If I miss this dunk, it's because I missed this dunk, but it's not because I can't do it.
Right, but if we go down to 9 feet, then I think we can get a
Poster.
back to the basket, maybe a spin move, and I'm dunking. Maybe we're going to get something like that from the women at 9 feet. But at 10, we're never going to get it in game. But maybe at 9 is a little bit of a possibility.
Yeah, it's definitely possible.
One last thing on women's sports. Every year, like ESPN always plays the NCAA women's softball tournament, and I feel like that always drives in a lot of attention for the sport. A lot of people watch it. I know I watch it every year. I'll throw it on if there's not a game on or something, and it's always entertaining. But how come there's like no professional league of it or like something for those girls to continue on?
There
should be.
There's not money. There's no money. In that.
Yeah.
There's no money in it because there is leagues for those women. It's just that there's no money behind it. So because baseball in reality is tough for people to watch. So it's tough for people to tune in to watch the Royals and the Pirates, right? On a random fucking Tuesday night. So imagine if you had to tune in on a random Tuesday night to watch, some women from 60 feet away. Guys aren't going to do it. Let's be real. And as much as women want to say they love sports and all that, they're not tuning in to watch sports every night. They're just not. It's not happening. They're not doing it. They got so much other shit going on. They got kids. They got fucking, the housewives, all sorts of shit to tune into and to watch, some women playing softball. And men aren't going to watch it for the most part. So, but college softball is at least this final stretch when they get into the final 16 or whatever it is entertaining to watch.
Oh yeah.
I don't watch it, but it's entertaining.
There is, what is it? What's this called? The Athletes Unlimited Softball League is a professional softball league. And there's like, what is this? There's only 4 teams. So like,
oh wow.
There, or maybe I think that's right. There's only a couple of teams. I remember seeing today the catcher from Florida State signed with the Volt, and it was like a big deal. But like, yeah, I mean there is professional softball, and I used to work with a girl that was my manager at one point. Her name is Ches Severs. She played at UT, and she was like freshman of the year playing at UT, like crazy highlights, like hitting home runs. And she faced Jenny Finch, who was one of probably the best pitcher ever in women's softball, like Olympian, just like crazy good. Like you should like look up Jenny Finch striking out like a whole bunch of men. Like a baseball team tried to face Jenny Finch and they couldn't touch her with a tennis racket, bro. Like it was crazy. And I think that there should certainly be more teams and more buy-in for a women's softball league, because it's a great game. Honestly, there's more action in it than baseball. The way that the women play, they play aggressively. They play super aggressively, like throwing the way that they throw the ball across the diamond. Like it's a fast-paced game because it has to be. And I think that could be the next thing. And, ESPN has gotten behind the College Women's World Series over these last, I want to say 5, 6, 7 years. And it's become kind of a prototype for their emerging sports. So they want to do the same kind of a thing. Like I talked to the guy that was actually the head of production for the NCAA wrestling championships last year. He now works for ESPN, or not ESPN. I think he works for like Fox Sports or something like that now. But him and I talked last year or 2 years ago, and he's like, wrestling is going to be on the same type of trajectory that softball was in college, where they want to put it on ESPN Plus to have people tune in. And that way it'll build more and more and more. And then it'll be on ESPN proper, which they've been doing over the last couple of years. So they're trying to see what that buy-in is. I think with the more buy-in that we see from ESPN, you'll see more of an emerging league for professional softball. It's just like there's an emerging volleyball league too. I know, I think it was Matt mentioned volleyball earlier. There's an emerging volleyball league that's like here and in Nebraska and in a couple other places. I think they have like 8 teams. And it's like tons of money behind it. And there's like, they're only in the hotbeds, but like it's a women's volleyball league. And it has that same type of softball feel to it, where they're trying to have money behind it. So I think women, like we said, women's sports is emerging. I just think that we have to remember where men's sports used to be, because the WNBA is actually ahead of where the NBA was when they were at this point. So it's just still, it takes money and time and marketing to come into play. We're just so used to that. We're in a popcorn society. Everybody thinks that, everybody's watching this now, this is going to start blowing up, when it's just like, it doesn't really work that way. Like it takes a lot of time for that shit to happen.
Yeah.
I agree with you, but let's get to some good shit.
Real quick before I get to that, I just got Matthew Roach's comment. He said alley-oop and semi-pro, but he was talking about if the women lowered the rim.
Rim. It'd be a great game, man. It'd be a lot better to watch. A lot easier to watch, by the way. So, but anyway, Ryan, I don't know if you saw today. Brian Kelly, head coach at LSU, made a statement. He said that the coaches of the SEC are all in on playing a non-conference game against a Big Ten opponent. Do you believe it? Number one, and number two, should it happen?
It should happen. I don't know. I mean, the SEC is kind of wilding now. Not to completely change it, but like Greg Sankey, the SEC, the commissioner of the SEC, he's been going wild right now. Going at the Big 12 and going at the ACC, talking about some joint press release that's supposed to be coming out and everything else. And then the Big 12 commissioner is like, I have no idea what the hell he's talking about. There is no joint press release that's coming out, talking about this and that. But like Brian Kelly, it's tough to, if this came from someone else in the SEC, I think it becomes more believable. It's not as believable coming from Brian Kelly because he's been known to talk a very big game and have very low ROI. You had the damn Heisman Trophy winner and you couldn't do anything. You lost to Florida State back-to-back years in the openers. So like, you're not a very good representation of an SEC team right now, LSU. I'm sorry to say it, but you're not under Brian Kelly. So hearing this come from him, it should happen, but I would need some other coaches to come in to validate that, right?
Maybe like Kirby.
Yeah, I would need to hear from Kirby, right? I would need to hear from guys like that have been sitting on top because they actually have the cachet to say, hey, we're on top of the SEC, right? I would want to hear, I mean, UT is freshly in the SEC, but I want to hear it from Sark, right? I'd want to hear it from these guys that are the front runners in the SEC, because they have a little bit more leeway to say, we're going to go out and do this because we have the clout and the cachet that we can now say we're bringing in a Big Ten team to do a home. We're scheduling a home and home with a Big Ten team, right? Like, we're going to make sure that it's a UT Michigan or a UT Penn State game is going to happen, right? We're going to go to UT for, week 3 or something like that. Penn State's going to UT for week 3, and UT is going to head to Happy Valley for the whiteout game, right? Like, that would be huge. That would be something that would be incredible. But when it comes from LSU, it's kind of hard because, like, people aren't really tuning in to see LSU. They're not really, like,
still a big school. Still
a big school, but the things that Brian Kelly has done there, people aren't tuning in to see them as much, because if you think about the players that they used to have, those guys, I mean, Neighbors gone, Jane Daniels gone, Joe Burrow, there's no Joe Burrow there anymore. Like, it's a different way for LSU. So, like I said, if you're hearing it from UT, you're hearing it from Georgia, even if it came from Lane Kiffin, I'd be like, Lane Kiffin is a straight damn shooter. That dude, if that dude's talking, he's probably putting something out there that the rest of the SEC doesn't want out there right now. But the SEC is kind of wilding right now with the things that Greg Sankey's been saying and how they're like, we might leave the NCAA.
Yeah, there was a rumor that came out that CBS posted, now that Eddie Money says he took it down, where they would be out of the NCAA after 2028. Mm-hmm. So now Brian Kelly's comment was kind of reading into it a little bit. He kind of said, like, the Big Ten's won the last 2 national titles, and they kind of have a sour taste in their mouth. So they want to, maybe kind of prove themselves a little bit in the regular season and kind of put it down. And so I can see it. He's kind of speaking. He said everyone in the room felt the way he felt, right? They all, that's what he's saying, right? And I get it. If Kirby would have come out and said it, who's kind of the elite dog, Georgia Bulldog, but he is the elite dog in the SEC. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Stark as well. And so, I mean, yeah, he said it. I know it kind of comes off because he hasn't accomplished much at LSU. But I'd like to see it. I think it should happen because now the guys, they can win 10 games and still get in the playoff, right? And if they take this thing to 16, which they've, you saw the 5-11 thing. I don't know if you read it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that kind of makes it even easier where you can go in and have a tougher game, week 2, 3, 4, whatever. I'm not talking about do it in week 11 or 12, but 1 through 4, we can get in a game. Alabama, Oregon, Georgia, Michigan, or whatever. I think it would be a great thing. Now, according to him, he says that the commissioner needs to agree to it, and the Big Ten needs to agree to it. And I don't think the Big Ten would have a problem, to be honest with you.
I don't think they would at all. The Big Ten rarely has issues with a lot of things, honestly. So, like, I don't think they'd have an issue with it. I really don't. I mean, that's more money for tickets. That's they're probably going to be looking at, different TV deals, which is more revenue, and everybody's talking about revenue in football right now. So I don't see why not.
And it gives the fans exactly what they've been asking for.
And I think he kind of singled out the Big Ten because those two are by far superior than the other 3 big conferences, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think they're just, far superior. And for them, it's like, if we can get the Big Ten on the train and we all just pull out from the NCAA and then we just kind of just scoop everybody into these 2 giant monster fucking conferences, then nobody's going to complain about a 9-3 team making a playoff, because that 9-3 team, although lost to Ole Miss, beat fucking Michigan in week 3 or whatever. And I think it'll go a long way for both conferences, at least getting into the playoffs. And you'd probably have a fucking, probably 8 of the 12 teams from those 2 conferences anyways.
Yeah, I mean, with the playoff, the way that they want it, they're trying to have auto bids for, 4 for, and I know we talked about it last time I was on the show. And Matt, I agree with that. Honestly, football and basketball should be treated differently than the Olympic sports. Because, one subsidizes the other. The money that comes in from March Madness, the money that comes in from ultimately the college football playoff and the regular season, it subsidizes these other sports and it allows them to do the things that they do. Plus, a lot of those Olympic sports are kind of low maintenance. They don't cost as much to have a wrestling team, have a track team, because the equipment isn't as expensive. But yeah, I mean, there's already been talk of, a super conference. And then there's obviously talk about how it would work with the playoffs of the SEC getting 4 auto bids, Big Ten getting 4, and then, ACC and Big 12 each getting 2, and like how that breakdown would be. But like, it's the SEC. I feel like it's going to take a little bit longer for the rest of the conferences to catch up. And I feel like Greg Sankey is trying to get ahead of that, where if you truly look at last year, they're out of conference. They were under 500 and they're out of conference games. And I understand we're not throwing in like all the Georgias and all these other Big Ten, these big SEC powerhouses. But if you want to claim supremacy as a conference, you look at everything holistically. And if you look at how they were out of conference in their non-conference games, they didn't win more of their non-conference games than they lost. So
Right,
I feel like, so I feel like he's looking at the writing on the wall and he's saying, all right, if we're going to poke the bear at any point, it's going to have to be now, because the playing field is being level when it comes to NIL and transfer portal, where these teams can now say, you don't got to go to Georgia. You don't got to go to LSU. You don't got to go to UT. You can come to Michigan. You can come even to SMU. You can come over here. We can spend the money now. And you can come over here and you can go wherever. I mean, the number 1 pick was from Miami this past year. Cam Ward was, this is what, his 3rd or 4th school, but like money is what allows these guys to stay in college and flourish. So with that, I feel like the SEC is like the playing field is going to start to really, truly level out when it comes to looking at rev share, looking at NIL and everything else. So we should probably get ahead of having some other new revenue stream, which they're looking at. We, at my other podcast, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, where the rev share case, the House versus NCAA case, hasn't even been signed yet. The judge has stopped everything because of like the roster limits and how they're trying to get rid of walk-ons and all these things. That hasn't even been signed yet. So while everybody is clamoring and worried about rev share, the shit didn't even go into effect yet, and it probably won't for a little bit until they fix everything, because they had another hearing and they didn't fix it again. So the can got kicked further down the road. So they're trying to figure out other revenue streams, and they're talking about private equity coming in and, maybe treating these football teams and these basketball teams like businesses so that there is some sort of money flow to it. But like on top of that, I know, we talked about it and it's kind of in the show notes of like the SEC leaving the NCAA. But if what is this? If the House of Representatives has anything to do with it, not to get political, the NCAA is going to be gone. There's already been a bill that was introduced in Washington by the rep from Washington. I had the notes in front of me. What's it called? The Restore College Sports Act, which would get rid of the NCAA and institute an American College Sports Association. So like, they're trying to get rid of it. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to have a commissioner that will serve a 4-year term, and he'd be appointed by like the president or whatever else. So they're trying to add a little bit of politics to sports, but they're trying to have more of, instead of appointing a figurehead that just kind of sits over the governing body, having somebody that has a term limit, where if shit's not working under that last guy or whoever it is sitting at the big desk, we're bringing in somebody new. So while they're talking about maybe leaving the NCAA, in a couple of years, there might not be an NCAA if this bill goes through. There's a lot of like nuance to it and a lot of things that they have to flesh out. But there is certainly some talk about getting rid of the NCAA because of NIL and how they're kind of botching how that is working out. So things could be coming to fruition a little bit quicker than expected with that.
See, if that happens though, then where's the student athlete part of it, right? Who's gonna kind of
The student athlete part has been gone for years when they announced that Matt Leinart was taking intro to VCR programming during the
Of course, it was
during
a
the
USC
national championship, right? Like Eddie, I know you're not. I know you're watching. There's a particular school in Chapel Hill that got in trouble for some fictitious classes there too. So the student athlete part of it hasn't really been in the mix as much as we want to associate it with them. And whenever they said they could be paid, student athletes are gone now, man. Like it just doesn't, it's gone. And it's been gone for a very long time. It has been gone. And it was, I would even venture to say that it was gone when SMU got the death penalty, when they were paying players back in the Eric Dickerson era, when he was able to drive, what was it, that gold Trans Am? Like, come on, man. Like, they weren't student athletes back then. It's been gone for a very long time. It's just the student athlete guys has been there so that the NCAA can fight off all these I want to be paid arguments. But it has now come to a point where you can't argue that anymore, where the money that you're bringing in is billions and billions of dollars. And all it took was one player to say, I went to bed hungry last night. And the next week you had all these different schools manufacturing a brand new cafeteria, right? Like I was literally on a trip to Illinois doing a coverage there with the wrestling team where the sports only cafeteria was being transitioned. It used to be like a separate cafeteria. They were changing it to sports only. So like all it took was that, and it opened the floodgates of I'm hungry. Oh, you don't have enough money to eat. You don't have enough time to get a second job or anything else like that. We got to make sure you're fed. Oh, well, now you need XYZ and it's things that we don't want to pay for. Now we got to figure out that there's back money that you're probably owed because the people sitting up in the suites have tons and tons of money, whereas the people that are actually sacrificing their bodies have nothing. So that one statement is what changed all of it. And you realize these aren't really student athletes anymore. And like I said, even back to the Eric Dickerson era of getting the money that he got at SMU, it's just completely different.
Yeah, and you brought up politics in college sports, and Matthew just says NCAA watches everything after delayed responses, not taking a stance on anything, including trans participation in women's sports. Now, I don't know if you saw this week, President Trump threatened the state of California with funding because this girl, I don't know if you saw the story. There's a transgender, it's a boy. Now she's a girl. She's competing in this competition here in, I think, Carupa Valley in Riverside County, basically. But they're letting her compete against girls. Do you have what is your stand on that?
I do not
stand on that.
Yes and no. Mostly because I'll tell you this, right? My stance comes from this. If you broke your finger, would you cut off your hand? Probably not, right?
No.
That's the equivalent of what it is for trans
Ronnie
athletes.
Lott probably would, but
yeah, he cut off the finger, right? He just ripped off the whole
his
finger.
whole arm if he had to keep playing.
Yeah.
He'd fucking do it.
But that's the equivalent of what this is when it comes to trans athletes. Like everyone is making like a huge stink about it, and honestly, like from a journalistic standpoint, it's like 0.0053% of the NCAA. Like it's not. It's like they are making literal mountains out of molehills. So for me to have any sort of stance on it, no, I do. Would I want my daughter, my niece to play against a biological boy? No, I wouldn't want that, right? But I'm also of the school where I grew up wrestling and playing football, and I had a girl on my team, on my football team. I had and the women in wrestling now had to grow up wrestling other boys, right? So
Other
like
boys, right.
So if we want to talk about that, like it's always been unequal, and women have competed against boys no problem. So for me to look at it and say that I don't see the issue for me. Yes, I do not think that boys and girls should compete against each other. Point blank.
After
Point blank period.
For me, I think it's after an age, right? Because when like I coach baseball, right? So
Mhm.
when the kids are 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
Yeah, it's
right?
whatever.
It's different, right? And then for most of the parents, when they see that their daughter already can't compete at 8 or 9 years old, although maybe they can still compete a little bit, but it's not the same, then they kind of move them over to softball, right? The problem that I see is once they hit puberty and now they're starting to grow, and then the boys grow at a their
Mhm.
muscle mass is all completely different, right? So you
It's
don't
different.
want a 14-year-old boy playing softball against a 14-year-old girl because a line drive off of that bat is going to be a problem, right? Like we'll never have this problem in the NBA because, for example, you'll never want, girls are not going to want to play against boys in basketball at
No.
14, 15 years old because 14, 15-year-old boys, the elite ones, or even the Division One players are dunking at 14 years old and
Mhm.
15 years old. So you're never going to want, so we might never see that in that sport as far as, but it's just that for me, once the boys get to a certain age, like I don't think they should compete against the girls. I really
Yeah,
don't.
for sure. I agree with that as well. But I will say, like, everybody makes a big deal, like you've got a bunch of LeBron James in wigs and training bras trying to go out and play against Caitlin Clark. You don't have that. Like,
No,
it's not that is not the case. And like, everybody makes a big stink, and this Riley Gaines girl has made all kinds of money off of being some martyr. Here's the thing: whether that trans athlete was in that swim meet or not, Riley Gaines still took fifth. That's the thing. Everybody wants to talk about, oh, she was up against a trans athlete. Yeah, she whether that person was swimming next to her or not, she still would have taken fifth.
well, I think she's
She
just the one
lost
that
to
said. I think she's just the one that said something, right?
Yeah, but
So
she's also the one that made the biggest stink of all. She's
right, right,
she's the
right.
most
Well, we
vocal
always
and everything else. So she's got this little, this little following now, because she can now be the face of this stupid little movement. When it was one race, she took fifth and lost to a number of women that were
right. I
way better than her. So,
no,
like,
obviously, but if the girl who finishes second actually comes out and says something, then it's different. But obviously, they didn't. And usually, when we kind of see it, the complainers usually aren't one of the elite ones,
and that's what
right?
I'm saying. It's
So
at none of these sports do you see. I mean, yeah, I think there was like a biological guy that won like a women's weightlifting competition or whatever else. Like, there was the same thing happened in like fencing as well. It's not going to happen in the most major sports because they're already regulating for these sort of things. But
well, and in the
also,
major sports, those guys that have transitioned to women aren't elite.
yeah,
So they
exactly.
weren't. So
And
it'll
they're
never happen in a major
on
sport.
any side, they're not elite. Whether they're competing against men or competing against women, they're not elite at all. So, like I said, I I want everybody to be able to compete. I do. Point blank, period. Do I think that men and women should compete against each other? No, certainly not. Like, obviously. But I also, if my daughter was in a wrestling match, or if my son was in a wrestling match against a female, you go wrestle her the same way that you would wrestle that boy over there on that mat. Or if my daughter is in a wrestling match against a boy, you go bust his ass. That's what it is. And that's how we grew up, and that's how it should be. I feel like everybody wants to, and it's funny. Like, I keep bringing up the podcast that I'm on because all of these topics we literally talked about youth sports, where these helicopter parents wanted to regulate the bumps and bruises out of youth sports, instead of saying go outside and play. And I don't want you to come back unless something's broken, right? Like, that shit don't happen anymore. All of those scraped knees have been regulated out of kids' lives, and that's part of the problem, to the point where now they think that trans athletes are an issue, when in fact trans athletes is not an issue. it's like I said, it's not even a 1% that trans athletes are in sports, like at all. So everybody just, for me, it's a very big distraction from the people that actually went out and are doing the work. It's a blip on the radar for me. And as a journalist, it's not something that I truly care to even cover. If there was a trans athlete that was wrestling a couple of years ago and had to wrestle, and it was a girl that transitioned into being a boy, and because of Texas law had to compete against girls. And they were like, well, that's not right. And it's like, well, how's it not right? Like, she's a girl. You want girls to compete against girls. You're saying that she's a biological girl. She's competing against girls, but because she's transitioning, you're like, well, she should compete against the boys now. So it just, everybody.
But we're not going to see that in the other sports. We're not going to see a girl transition to a man and then go and box. And we are going to see men transition into women and then go and box. We are going to see men transition into girls, or boys into girls, and then go and run track. We are going to see them try and play volleyball. You saw the girl at San Jose State. Utah State withdrew. The University of Utah, a bunch of schools withdrew from their matches because they're taking a ball off the dome from a man whose velocity is coming at 95 or 100 miles an hour compared to a woman's who's coming at 75 or 80. It's a big difference. So we're never going to see a woman transition to a man's sport unless it's maybe a wrestling type of deal or whatever. And even then, when they're on their women transitioning, which is the case you just brought up, they're on hormones and all sorts of shit. So they have a different advantage, which is why the women didn't want them to wrestle. They didn't want to wrestle against her. And then Texas law says, well, women can't wrestle against men. So it was like that person was stuck in the middle, where it's like basically you were fucked, right?
Yeah. And honestly, like, they wanted to wrestle against boys. It was just that you couldn't.
Right. And
this kind of is what it is.
And I think that is an even smaller percentage than what we're seeing now with the track, the swimming, the volleyball, and softball. There was a 12-year-old boy transitioning to be a girl in Minnesota who's pitching there in softball at 12 years old. Imagine that boy at 14. What's he going to be? And 15. What's he going to be whipping at them? 75, 80, 90? Like, that's the problem that I have with it. And I know you're saying it's a small percentage, but it's going to continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger if you don't put a stop to it. That's the thing. Like, it's going to get bigger. It could go from 0.5% to 2% in a couple of years, because some of these states are saying it's okay. So imagine like this girl, this boy transitioning to female here in Jurupa Valley. She's running. Okay, men are faster than women. It's like Usain Bolt isn't running against women, and no woman would dare to run against Usain Bolt or Carl Lewis or Michael Johnson or anybody. Yeah. And Tyson Gay, you can name them all, right? So, but now you flip it the other way, and it's like, imagine if, like you said, LeBron type player puts on a fucking training bra, which he actually might wear, and go and play against some of these. I just don't. I think they need to start nipping it in the butt before it gets bigger. And things grow and they grow and they grow. The less you leave it, and the more you let it grow, and it'll get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then once somebody really gets hurt, that's when it's all the lawsuits are going to break out and all sorts of shit. Because some of these kids, boys, I don't want to see a boy playing against a girl on a softball field at 15, 14, 15, 16 years old. I mean, I don't want to see it, because someone can get hurt. Running track, nobody's going to get hurt, but it's unfair to the girls that have ran track since they were 4 years old, right? It's unfair to them. Somebody can get hurt on a volleyball court. On a basketball court, not so much, but still, there's a level of athleticism that we were talking about earlier that we're going to eventually see. And trust me, women aren't going to like it when you have a 18-year-old man playing at the University of Tennessee for the women's team, and he's dunking all over everyone, and nobody's going to like it. And then it's going to get to that point. I think it's going to get to that point little by little. It's getting more and more and more. And if we don't put a stop to it in 5 or 10 years, it's going to be a bigger percentage than what we have now. That's what I
agree.
So But that's me on that. Eddie Money, you got anything else you want to touch on?
Just we got OKC playing the Wolves right now. They're already up 30, about to go into halftime. So it looks like the Thunder, barring anything crazy, will go to the finals.
They're up 30.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's 30 to 59 in the second quarter.
This is what we were alluding. This is what I was alluding to earlier with Ant. You cannot be, in my opinion, and I know Jordan got a pass for the first 3 or 4 years until Scotty got there. And I don't even know if Jordan got a pass because those teams were that fucking good. The Celtics were that good. The Sixers were that good. They had Dr. J and they added Charles and then Moses. Like those teams were that good, right? You had the Celtics, you had the Sixers, you had the Lakers. You had teams that were elite for periods of time, for a long period of time, right? When LeBron came in the league, you had the Spurs, you had the Celtics right after, you had the Lakers also in that time, right? So you had Kobe and Shaq, Tim Duncan and the Spurs. You had when the Celtics got KG and those guys. You had that stretch there with those elite teams. Right now, Golden State's faded because they're a lot older. They don't have Clay, they don't have Durant. That is faded. We don't have that elite team in the NBA since basically LeBron and Steph have kind of faded away, right? They've gotten a lot older. So for me, for people to come out and say Ant is this and that, there is no dominant team in the NBA. If you are him the way you think you are, then you should have been up in this series. You should have taken your team to the next level. But to me, he's not him, and I don't ever believe that he will be in that class of players. And I'm not talking LeBron, Steph. That's an elite class of top 8 players of all time. But come close to that, and I don't think he's going to even come close to that because this was the perfect opportunity for Ant playing against a young team with one elite player and a player who's in reality not an all-around player. He wasn't top 10 in anything except for scoring. He's not an elite passer. He's not an elite playmaker because he averages 6 assists a game or less. He averages under 6 rebounds a game. He's not an elite player. And you are here going to lose in a gentleman's sweep at 4-1. And you, in reality, weren't even close. The first game, you were in the game until the second half. Game 2, you were completely out of it, and you're getting your ass whooped here tonight. So for Ant to be this generational, he's the next guy up. Like the league is right now in a spot where it's for the taking, and you've had 2 opportunities to take it, and you haven't. And that is my problem with Ant and these guys. Oh, this is the next guy up. We don't have an elite team. We don't have you're not playing against anybody. If it's different if this was 2017, 18, 19, 20, where you had the Warriors and whatever team LeBron was on, whether it's Cavs or Lakers, right? And it's not that. And Jordan got a pass because the teams were elite. And once those teams weren't elite anymore, Jordan took over and he became the elite team, right? And so there's no elite team. And in reality, we don't have an elite player that we're watching here in the last 4 teams. We really don't. I look at these 4 teams, and there's not one guy that I can say is an all-timer compared to when we had those times. So for me, Ant can't not even be considered or even thought of to be an elite superstar-esque type player because he's not doing shit. He's really not. And his supporting cast is pretty fucking good. It's not really like he doesn't have a good roster.
I think the thing for me, right, like while we don't have like a transcendent type player in the NBA right now, or at least like that next guy up kind of a thing, I love that we finally have more parity though, where the Cavs came in hot at the beginning of the season. We're like, oh shit, is this the year for the Cavs to come in? And ultimately no, right? But we have so much more parity with these teams where you don't know who's going to be there at the end of the year. We don't even have that in the NFL. In the NFL, we're like,
people don't like it, Ryan. People don't like it because they're not watching. People don't like it because they're not watching. Like
because everybody wants to, because there's no villain in it. There's no more villains in basketball. Like,
well, LeBron's still a villain, but he's 40.
No, he's not even that anymore. Like it's to the point now where the I'm sorry, but like the GOAT debate is exhausting. People have it all the time, whatever else. I know we've had it, but it's exhausting. It's played out at this point because the people that are LeBron lovers and people that are Jordan, like they're just not going to get along. It is what it is. That's what your opinion is. And LeBron's on his final couple seasons, so it just is what it is. I don't even consider LeBron to be a villain anymore in the NBA because everybody gets along. So like there is no like you might be like, man, I can't stand LeBron because of what he brought to the league. Of everybody's getting along, and everybody's going on this trip, and everybody's trying to party, and everybody's trying to do this and that. And Michael Jordan hated everybody, and and he wasn't getting along with these guys. Like that's what made the league great because it was like this team really truly can't stand this other team. Nowadays, that don't happen. So that the parity for me is like the next best thing where we don't have a villain, but now anybody can be standing at the top now. Now you have to watch and you have to pay attention to who's truly going to take over and take the mantle because you don't have a Bulls team that just comes in and dominates. Right. And if you look at like the NFL, everybody was like, yeah, the Chiefs are most likely going to go to the Super Bowl again. They ultimately lost, but they were like, yeah, it's probably going to be the Chiefs. And everybody was like, yeah, it's probably going to be the Chiefs versus, maybe it's Lamar Jackson. It should be Lamar Jackson coming out and playing in the Super Bowl against like, and it didn't happen, right? Like everybody can look at the NFL and the talks are already starting to happen where you're like, Patrick Mahomes is going into year 9. It's the Chiefs, right? It's the Chiefs. It's everybody's like, this has got to be the year for Josh Allen. Josh Allen finally has to do it this year because if not, he's on the back end. Like, everybody's talking about the same set of teams every single year in the NFL, whereas in the NBA, you can no longer do that, right? That's why Knicks fans are going crazy because they didn't as much as the Knicks fans were like, yo, we got Brunson, we got these guys, we got that. They didn't know. They didn't think they're going to be there, right? Like they didn't know, you know what I mean? And neither did Indiana. They didn't know. Halliburton is becoming very, very good. SGA, the rightful MVP, but you were like, okay, maybe they could do something in OKC. Maybe something happens there, but you weren't sure, right? Like I said, Cleveland came in hot to start the season, but they ultimately flamed out when everybody thought that it was going to be them. So who's to say, right? And Boston just won last year's title. They're not even in the mix right now. So,
but I think that's why people aren't watching. I think people aren't watching because they don't have, and people can blame.
They don't have the usuals.
They don't have the usual suspects. They don't people can hate the Chiefs as much as they want, and they can keep saying year 9 for Mahomes. They did the same shit when Tyreek Hill was gone. Oh, the Mahomes is done and blah, blah. They go on and win back-to-back Super Bowls, right? So, but people still watch. People still watch as much as they hate the Chiefs. They're still going to watch the Chiefs.
Yeah, because they wanted to see two things: can the Chiefs do it again, and will they lose?
Or can they lose? Yeah, but I think in the NBA, they're not. People aren't watching because it's not. It's not LeBron. It's not Steph. It's not.
I think for the NBA, it's more so like I think it's like there's no like franchise right now. Like the Patriots had their dynasty. The NBA hasn't really had their dynasty in a couple of years. So it's probably Golden State was probably the last dynasty from the top of my head.
Like and on the verge of one, yeah.
Yeah, so everybody's waiting for that next one to either rally around and love or rally around and hate. And right now, it's just like a pick and pop of one team will win this.
And we're not going to get.
And we're not going to get it for a while.
We're not going to get it for a while because look at these 4 teams that are left. Right, the Knicks. Even if they win tomorrow night, which I think they will, can they make it a series? Even if the Knicks win the title, come back and win the title, whatever. Knicks, Pacers, Thunder. Either one of those 3 teams are they good enough to win back to back? Probably not.
Probably not. No.
Probably not. And this is probably going to be the least watched NBA Finals since who knows when. Indiana and OKC or the Knicks. If the Knicks are in, maybe that'll be a big get. But even then, and I just feel like that's why people aren't watching because we don't have a big superstar. As good as SGA's been, he put up 36 a night this season or 35 or whatever.
Well, also, half the people hate the way he plays. It's like a running joke that if you turn on an OKC game, you will see SGA at the free throw line.
SGA or Williams will be on the line. Like they're on the fucking free throw line. Like it's automatic that they're getting 10 free throws a game, those 2 guys, right?
The game ain't
So-
the game anymore, and that's why.
Yeah.
Everybody likes each other. Honestly, everybody likes each other, and people
thing
can't
is,
stand that either.
The thing about the guys liking each other is because the teams aren't good enough to consistently compete in the playoffs. Because even after Jordan, we had the Knicks and the Heat who hated each other because they were consistently playing. Like, you can't name me 5 guys off of that Knicks team. Like, a random dude who doesn't watch the NBA can't sit there and tell you who was on that Knicks team, who was on that Heat team. Like, right there. So they're not consistently playing each other. Like, you can watch all the interviews of Jeff Teague or guys who were on the Pacers and Paul George. And when that Indiana team was decent, they were getting their ass whooped every season by LeBron. But they weren't even that good to even compete. And now we don't get these back-to-back series year after year after year for you to even hate each other. Like, Draymond tells a story where, when he links up and signs with Clutch, right? There's like a boat trip out in Miami or whatever. And, he didn't want to get on the boat. He was kind of uncertain about getting on the boat because he thought LeBron hated him. Right.
Yeah.
He talked about like, oh shit, I don't know how this guy's going to treat me. At the end of the day, it's, all good and shit. But for the most part, you're not getting those conference, playoff rounds where it's year after year after year where you're beating each other up for 6 and 7 games. That's where the hate comes in from. Because Jordan didn't hate the Celtics because the series were never close. It came out that when Larry Bird was maybe getting traded to the Celtics, Jordan was dying to have Larry Bird. That came out like a couple months ago that there was an article written or whatever that they found. There wasn't that hate. There was hate between Detroit and the Bulls because the series were so intense and good that there was a battle. And we're not getting battles year after year after year for the most part in the NBA. We're just not. And LeBron and the Warriors, they played 4 finals in a row.
Yeah, but LeBron wanted to play with Steph.
Yeah, so there wasn't. Yeah, LeBron's not a killer mentality as Kobe and Jordan, right? So, did Kobe hate the Spurs? Maybe, maybe not. I'll tell you who Kobe and they hated each other were the Kings and the Lakers, who played year after year after year, and they fucking hated each other because they played year after year after year. And so I think we're not getting that. And so you can't develop hate for a team if you're not constantly beating each other's ass for 6 and 7 games the year before. This year, all right, it's Dallas and Denver. And then the next year, it's fucking Minnesota and Denver. And the year after that, it's Minnesota and Oklahoma. Like, we're not getting them beating each other year after year after year, like the Knicks and the Bulls in Detroit. We're not getting the Knicks and the Bulls. I mean, the Knicks and the Heat. We're not getting that. So there is no hate. Like Indiana against the Bulls, there wasn't really hate there because it wasn't year after year after year. Orlando and the Bulls wasn't year after year after year. So once you get 3 or 4 years under your belt, you're going to develop the hate, and then you're going to see those ferocious matchups. And we're not getting that because, like you said, there's too much parity or whatever. It's not. I don't think it's that the guys just, I know the guys, they all hang out and they're all, because now I think it's a different time. Now I think they're all looking out for each other to all get paid. And it's come out as the movement against the owners and all that for years, right? And LeBron and Chris Paul kind of started that, right? Where it's like, we're not slaves. We do whatever the fuck we want, right? We're the ticket. Yep. So, and it wasn't like that before because you had one elite, you had Michael Jordan was making $30 million. Everybody else was not making even close to that money, right? So, I think the money aspect of it has kind of watered it down a little bit as far as the rivalries. And we're never, ever, ever going to get the rivalries that we had: Celtics, Lakers, Pistons, Bulls, even Knicks and Heat. I don't think we're ever going to have that again because of the teams aren't consistently good to face each other in these conference championships. Like, I'll tell you what, if Knicks and Indiana played each other for the next 4 Eastern Conference Finals, they're going to fucking hate each other.
Oh yeah.
I was going to say that. Yeah, if they bring that back, that'll be the best thing that happens to the NBA.
There'll be so much fucking hate. There'll be so much hate there in year 3 or 4 where you're going to have literally people hating fucking Indiana and the Pacers hating the Knicks to a level of maybe not Pistons Bulls because that was just insane, or even Celtics Lakers. but it can get to that Knicks and Heat.
It'll be back to that history where Reggie Miller, they hated Reggie Miller.
They hated
that
Reggie
man.
because of the one series, but it was that was because Reggie fucking choked out, the whole choke thing.
Yeah, but even still, at least there was that history there to the point where they could have that, and the NBA was able to build off of that. They don't even have that right now, right? And
I don't think even if you go back Spurs Lakers, there wasn't hate with Tim Duncan and Shaq. There was
Those were just like great series.
It was a mutual respect, but there was plenty of hate in that Sacramento and Lakers series year after year after year because you had Doug Christie that hated Kobe on the court, right? You had Mike Bibby and C. Webb and fucking Brad Miller and Vlade. They all hated those guys because it was year after year after year. So if we get Knicks and the Pacers year after year after year, even if we get Pacers and Bucks year after year after year, there's a hate there between Giannis and the Pacers. There is no doubt about it. What they did to him last year in that game, and then in the playoffs,
coming up that the NBA could work with.
Like there, you can get that hate. I don't think we can get that hate in any other series. You'd have to have it repeated.
I don't know if series in the West, but I could see if like the T-Wolves kind of embrace that, like if Ant rallied his other teammates around, just like kind of that, like getting in the other players' like face when they get hot, like really mocking them. I think they could turn into the team in the West that everybody just like fucking hates.
But
they're not good enough. That's the issue.
You need to have consistency. It needs to happen over and over and over.
Yeah.
You need to have heated battles, series battles to get to that point. And the NBA hasn't had that for a while because, like I said, even Spurs and Lakers, those never got heated. There was never a heated battle in those games. Like it was just a mutual respect between Tim Duncan, Shaq, and Kobe, right? Like there wasn't a hate there. But the Kings and the Lakers, there was definitely fucking hate there. Both from California. You had, C. Webb and Doug Christie. Those guys, there was hate there. I don't think we're seeing hate because we don't have enough consistency. And even with the Warriors and Cavs, the series weren't good. Like the first series in 15, when it's just fucking LeBron, Matthew Vadola, and 5 other fucking turds, like they really had no chance there. The year after, Draymond gets suspended and they win. The year after that, they had Durant. The series were never good because Durant and the Warriors were just so fucking good that the series were never competitive. 4-1, 4-1, 4-0, whatever the fuck it was. Like it just wasn't there wasn't competitiveness on the court. And when you're watching these Indiana and the Knicks games, the Knicks blew a lead the game one, but the game was, the game went into overtime, right? Like they've had some battles. They've brought it, they've stayed in the game for the most part. Down 20, they've cut it to 7, 8, 9, etc. They've battled. And so you need to battle for year after year after year to build that hatred. And then people are going to be like, oh, fuck, this series was physical. Yeah, because they played each other for 3 seasons now in the fucking conference finals or in the semis. And they've truly hated each other because they're in each other's way.
Yeah, that's something else is they got to bring the physicality back to the game as well. I'm not saying, we want hack a Shaq. I'm not saying we want, guys throwing punches, but there's too much flopping going on in the game. Way too much, man. And too much like foul baiting going on. I mean, we talked about SGA being at the line as much as he is. Like there's way too much of that, right? Like the reason, and this was like a couple of weeks ago when I was talking about, having us talk about what was it, challenges in sports. And it was because I was watching a game and saw a guy flop, didn't even get hit, none of that. And I was like, you should be able to challenge that. If a guy flops, you should be able to challenge that. That should be something that should be challenged because there's way too many guys that are trying to get an Oscar and not a championship trophy, right? Like the Larry O'Brien is the gold trophy you should be worried about, not the Oscar, but there's too many of them that are worried about the other one. So like, let's be serious, man. Like it's just ridiculous how the game has changed and they need to bring back that physicality. And, the reason I started watching more basketball again was because I started reading Tim Grover's book. Tim Grover was he trained Michael, he trained Kobe, he trained D Wade, and LeBron worked with him too. But like in the book, he talks about like the different style of players and who players are, and like this, and like not even just like players, different type of people, like personalities, and like if you're a cleaner or not. Like cleaners just get shit done. And it's funny because he talked more about Michael, obviously, because Michael was like literally the first person that he worked with. But then he talks about how Kobe was, and he talks about how D Wade was. He doesn't talk as much about how LeBron was until it was like, it took LeBron a little while to make that phone call to him because LeBron didn't think that he needed that style of training. But D Wade was like, I'm calling you every year. This is how it's going to go. And he was like, these guys were my true cleaners. Cleaners don't exist anymore in the NBA, where they want that work and they want that work all the time. And they're going to be in your face and they can't stand you. And those guys that had that work ethic, they're gone. These guys, and it brings you back to the, ball players want to be rappers want to be ball players. It's the truth, man. It is the absolute truth. And now all these guys want to have these side quests where they're doing music in the offseason and everything else. Michael Jordan used to win and go to the gym. Kobe used to win and go to the gym, right? Like the wild thing is Kobe Bryant tore his Achilles and walked to the free throw line and hit 2 like it was nothing. We're watching, and
that is so overrated.
Yeah, I understand it's overrated, but like if you look at how people react when they tear their Achilles, that's the reason why people make the comparison, because he walked to the line, drained 2, walked off the court. We see other guys.
I wish Kobe was here to say that he thought it was a calf strain, which is why he went and shot the free throws.
He probably, and that's the thing, is he probably did.
100% he did. 100%
he probably did.
100%.
But you see how these other guys react to the same injury, and I feel like, and not to say that these guys are weak or anything else, but that's the comparison that is out there of like, and the only reason I say this because we talk about Jason Tatum and how he could be out of Boston. They never really thought. I mean, they thought about letting Kobe go, but like they're not even hesitant. They're like, Jason Tatum can leave, like he can go. Right. Like it's just very like the mentalities of everything is just so much different. Where I think it's
the money, man. I really do.
It is. It is.
I think
it ultimately is.
I saw something with LeBron that he was doing a podcast with Steve Nash, and he said something that I didn't like. And LeBron says actually a lot of shit that I don't like. I just like basketball. But he said something that I didn't like. And what he said that the officiating in the playoffs has gone from 0 to 100 as far as as letting them be more physical. And he thought that they should, because they don't call it like that in the regular season. They call a lot of fouls in the regular season and so on. And I think they do that because they want to see points on the board, right? Mm-hmm. But he was saying that the NBA should kind of ease into it. And instead of just going from 0 to 100, kind of like with about 30 games left, start calling it the way you're going to call it in the playoffs. And I think they should call it from the beginning. The way you're going to call it in the playoffs. I think you should
easing into the season.
Yeah,
not at the end. I think you should call it. Every game should be called the way it should be in the playoffs. I think you should accustom these players to playing physical from the beginning, from Halloween on. Because when you get down to the playoffs, now we got everybody complaining, SGA, da 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 da. But it's like, he's getting to the basket. He's getting, smacked down there a little bit. I think if they called it from the beginning, I think people would be less shocked on their biggest stage.
Yeah, the NBA took the physicality out of the game because they realized that they had megastars that were basically printing money. And they were like, we got to keep these guys healthy
for a little bit
until we get to that part of the season where they have no choice but to watch these games, right? Like there's way too many games that are on during the regular season for people to pick and choose from. We have to hold their attention span somehow. And we all know that everybody likes high scoring games. So we got to manufacture it a little bit, massage it a little bit so that these guys can score a ton of points. We can say that these guys are, not taking anything away from Westbrook, but like say these guys are averaging, triple doubles. These guys are killing it on the stats and everything else. And then once we get to the playoffs and everything else, like now they have to watch these games. When they have to watch these games, this is where, you turn up that physicality. This is where it gets harder. This is the hard part of the season. So this is where you let them play a little bit. No, let them play from the beginning. You let them play from the beginning. Everybody's going to want to tune in even more because you're like, shit, there might be some wild shit tonight. And I'm not just watching Draymond throw a pass and get his wrist swatted, right? Like let them play. Like, these are grown men. Treat them like grown men. And instead of little ticky-tack fouls and everything else, like, that will get them battle tested. You want to load manage on that? You go right ahead. You load manage on that. I'd feel just fine if you said, I'm getting my ass kicked every night.
I
need
break.
to take a break, as opposed to these little ticky-tack fouls that they're sending these guys to the line, just because they want high-scoring games. No, call it like you would at the end of the season, because at the end of the season, these guys won't be complaining about refs because they've had it the entire year, and the physicality of the game will go up. And then the viewership will probably return as well, because if these guys are playing each other physical, then you start to get your villains, then you start to get your rivalries, and then you start to have like that's the kind of parity that you want, where you're like, oh, right, LeBron's going here tonight. I wonder if him and such are going to get into it like they did before because of the hard fouls. That's what you need. You need the physicality back in the game. Without the physicality, the ratings go down, and that's just what you got.
Yeah, and I think they should start right out the gate. I think that's what you need, because you need, like you said, you want to see this Pacers and Knicks rivalry. You want to see it grow. You want to see the Pacers Bucks rivalry grow with physicality and so on. And if you start calling it that way and let them play a little more and but you want every night, you want to have 110 a night on each fucking side of the scoreboard. And it's what's kind of thrown people off. It's not that the game is bad, because the players are more athletic. They're more talented now. And Rick Barry said it. He goes, how good would you be in the NBA today? He goes, are you kidding? These guys work out. They do this. They get this, da. If we would have had that, those training sessions, this, that, he goes, I'd be great today because of everything that they have. And they're kind of just putting them in a bubble for fucking 82 games and not letting them take their bumps and bruises and so on. And so, I understand they want more points, but they gotta let them, they gotta let them play a little more. They gotta let fucking Rudy Gobert hit a guy in the fucking, in the face and not call it. Like, they just gotta let it fucking roll. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think that just about wraps it up. Went over a lot today. I was pretty surprised we went this long.
Wow. So thank you, Ryan. Eddie once again is out in South Carolina, moving and grooving on a golf tour. He's trying to join the Champions Tour.
Being pretty. We know what you're doing.
Yeah, he is. He's out there like a fashion model for sure. Out in South Carolina, Myrtle Beach.
He's showing off that new body. That's what it is.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. Ed's out there fucking modeling. He might be playing tomorrow in a tank top. If it gets hot enough. I need. If
you got it, flaunt it.
Damn right. So thanks Ryan Holmes.
Thanks for coming out, Ryan.
For sitting in. Appreciate it. Eddie Money, myself. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll be back full cast next week.
Yep.
Thank you guys.